Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. Calling to order the City Council regular meeting Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. At 6 p.m., of course. For roll call, Councilwoman Swint, place 2, has called in and she's unable to be here, and hope all is well with her. Everyone else is obviously here. And if you would, stand and join me for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. Next up is item number 4. We have a couple of proclamations. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to come down to the podium. I'm going to read the proclamations, each one at a time. The folks that are here to represent the organizations that are involved with what we're doing in the proclamations can come up, and they'll stand off to the side. We'll stay 6 feet apart because I'm going to take my mask off when I'm talking into the mic. And then I'm going to hand them the proclamation with my mask on, and then I'm going to step 6 feet away from them so then they can have the opportunity to speak at this podium. And for anybody that is keeping track, that's the only use of that podium tonight. If anybody speaks during citizens' comments in the beginning or the end of the meeting, as well as the 2 public hearings, it'll be at the COVID podium. That's the table that's farther into the room. Also, keep in mind, we have chairs that are 6 feet apart. So as you're sitting there, as long as you can be assured that you're staying the social distance apart, you do not, and that's basically the first 2 rows beyond the plastic chains. If you're so inclined, you may take your mask off then, but if you aren't able to keep 6 feet away from somebody, or if you're getting up to go walk someplace, we ask you to put the mask back on. The back row, the chairs are closer. That was it's kind of an overflow. Since we have some public hearings, we also wanted to be prepared if more people came in. So for that reason, when you're in the back row, they aren't 6 feet apart. So if you're not in the same household, you need to wear a mask. So that should cover it. I'm going to go ahead and come on down and read those proclamations. Okay, the first proclamation is to call attention to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This evening we have with us the Crisis Center of Comal County. We have our Executive Director who's staying in the back, Ms. Hill, and then Ms. Truen is up here, and I guess she's the one that's going to accept. After we do the exchange and after she speaks, if you'd like, or when we do the exchange, we can kind of step over here a little bit more and you can get a picture if you'd like, okay? All right, so without further ado. Proclamation. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year in which the first National Domestic Violence Toll-Free Hotline was initiated, and in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas in just one day across the United States and its territories, nearly 75,000 victims of domestic violence sought services from domestic violence programs and shelters. However, more than 9,000 requests for services could not be provided due to programs lacking the necessary resources, and safe houses continue to be rated as survivors' most urgent need. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affects individuals in society, and crosses all ethnic, racial, sexual preference, economic, age, education, and religious lines. And whereas domestic violence affects millions of people each year, but it can be prevented through the collective voice and power of individuals, families, institutions, and systems that add valuable and powerful components to transforming our communities. And whereas Comal County is dedicated to remembering the survivors of domestic violence, therefore the county courthouse tower will be illuminated for 1 week with purple lights. Now therefore be proclaimed that I, Larry Thompson, Mayor of Garden Ridge, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 2020 in the city of Garden Ridge as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and signed it the 7th of October. So before I hand this over to Ellie, this month, the center is engaged in, this month actually and next month too, is engaged in a few activities. Tomorrow night, candlelight vigil, 6 p.m.? There it is right here, 5:30. 5:30 up in the Center of New Braunfels. And then we changed the date. So the date now is for November 17th. Thank you. November 17th. It's an event, a walk a mile in her shoes. And our chief will be walking the mile in shoes they're providing. He said he had some pumps that he wanted to wear, but they said, no, you have to wear the ones we give you. So, but the chief is kind enough to be involved. But I plan, and the chief and I also went up to a open house kind of ribbon cutting for an additional facility that they have acquired. It's actually across the street from their main facility. It's wonderful. Both area and the original area also has been renovated, and we are kind of wowed with the facility and how great it is. But unfortunately, it's something that's needed, but something that everybody should know that it's there and it's available if someone should need it, as well as the counseling and the assistance. And moreover, not only this month, but every month, we should all be paying attention to this, be aware of it. It's no secret that that in the last few months, things have gotten a little tense in some places and some households and with some people. And so things have not gotten better, but gotten worse because of the isolation and a lot of other things going on in the nation. So please do what you can to support, do what you can to raise awareness. And it's just October, but every month, same thing. So we really appreciate what the Crisis Center does, and we appreciate that they are so dedicated to staying out in front of as much as they can. And so it's not just about response, but about prevention. When we were up there, Chief and I actually talked to some folks about the prevention angle and importance of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do up there. And come on over. I'm going to put my mask on and give you this. Thank you. I'd shake your hand, but, you know,
Yes,
it's illegal.
Is it okay for me to take this off?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor, so much, not just for this opportunity, but for everything that you do for us. And I'm only going to take a few minutes of your time. You did a lot of the work for me. Thank you. Yes, so the Crisis Center of Colma County, we serve victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. I am Ellie, I'm their prevention specialist, and so my job is to go into the schools and I talk to our youth about such things. With our littles, we talk more about the healthy connections with peers and with family members, emotional identification, but with my older group, like my middle school, high school, we get more into the healthy, unhealthy, and abusive. So one of my first activities that I do with them is I give them these little cards with different behaviors on them, and I ask them to sort them out between healthy behaviors, unhealthy behaviors, and abusive behaviors. The thing that I find, though, is that a lot of the unhealthy and abusive behaviors are misplaced. They're either put with healthy or abusive behaviors put with unhealthy. And then the behaviors that are placed with abusive are the ones that are physical, the ones that leave a mark. But something that we know is that abuse is not just physical. It's emotional, it's verbal, it's mental. So according to some of the clients that we get into our shelter, because I ask a lot of them, you know, what are some triggers for you or what's it been like for you? Even just an 8-year-old little boy that we had, he had a hard time whenever he would hear any diesel truck outside, because he said anytime that truck would pull up to his house, he would worry what was going to happen today. Was he going to have to hear him punching holes in the wall or yelling at mommy, or was he going to get yelled at that day for just being there?
And for our moms being told who, whenever they want to leave, they're told you can't leave. If you leave, I'll take your children from you and you will never see them again. So again, it's not always physical. It's mental, it's verbal, and it's emotional. So, not necessarily things that we want to hear about or talk about, but they're things that our clients and so many other individuals are living every single day. And so I ask, what can we do to help create change for them? And one thing is what we're doing right now, talking about it. As simple as that, just having these conversations, whether it's right here, whether it's with one individual, our friends, our family members, or with a large group, we're helping to create that systemic change that they so desperately need and deserve. And so again, I thank you so much for this opportunity to be up here and to be able to speak on this. I encourage you to go home and talk to your families, talk to your friends about this. That way others know as well that they're not alone, that there is help, that what they're going through, they don't deserve to go through that, and they don't have to go through it anymore, that we're here for them. So thank you so much. You're all welcome to come out tomorrow, 5:30 to 6:30, downtown New Braunfels. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. And one thing I didn't say that I will say, and just add on to that is, the chief and I are involved in a parallel group up in New Braunfels that covers the whole county, and I can tell you that all of these organizations not only can use the awareness and support, but volunteers. You know, the day that we were up there, we met a lot of people that are volunteers, and we know volunteers in the Children's Advocacy Center that we are on the board for. So if you're looking to get involved, there's lots of ways that you can do that, and I encourage you to look into it. I encourage you to call them. They're going to answer the phone, and they're going to be excited to talk to you and see how they can put you in some place that you can make a difference. Okay, the second proclamation in item 4 is for Hill Country Sky Month, and we have Mr. Larry Wells here, and same rules apply, sir. After I'm done reading it, I'll hand it to you, and you can say a few words. The idea behind this clearly is just to raise some awareness that in the beautiful area that we live in, if we don't have to shine lights up, that's a good thing. And I don't know if you've noticed, but CPS does a pretty decent job of lighting the ground without lighting the sky. They go out of their way to equip streetlights with that type of orientation now. And the first time they put in some lights around here, I was chagrined that I didn't think they were lighting up anything when I was far away, and then I got underneath it and I said, I don't think that, and I looked up and then I couldn't see for another couple of minutes. So they're really good when you're underneath them in the area that they're supposed to be lighting. I say that to say that you can do the same thing at your home. So consider, as I read this, consider what it's saying, and then any words that Mr. Wells, president of Friends of the Night Sky. So, proclamation. Whereas the aesthetic beauty and wonder of star-filled skies are the heritage of all humankind, and preserving rich historic heritage and starry nights and skies of Garden Ridge is important to its residents. And whereas the influx of people into Texas Hill Country region and the accompanying light pollution from area lighting fixtures has been steadily on the rise, eroding the historical view of the night skies in many nearby areas. And whereas addressing light pollution involves making better use of outdoor lighting to direct light down to where it's needed instead of upward into the sky, putting outdoor lights on timers and using outdoor lighting only where necessary. And whereas Hill Country communities are increasingly dedicated to the preservation of the region's night skies, as evidenced by their frequent educational activities conducted by the increasing number of places and organizations in our region. For example, the Comal County itself, Camp Bullis, Bracken Cave Preserve, San Antonio Astronomical Association, New Braunfels Astronomy Club, Guadalupe River State Park, and Comal County Friends of the Night Sky. And whereas this regional effort, in addition to the preservation and celebration of our night skies, is worthy of recognition. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Larry Thompson, Mayor, Garden Ridge, Texas, do proclaim October 2020 in the city of Garden Ridge as Hill Country Night Sky Month. Signed 7th day of October. Sir, come on up. We appreciate that this is something that you're dedicated to. And in essence, this isn't regulatory, this is just raising awareness and asking people to be aware of it and do what they can. So come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You're the first person I've heard that knew more about night sky friendly lighting than I did in March. So this is new to myself and a lot of people understanding the impact of light pollution and how easy it is to rectify. Just like the lighting you described, which costs less money than the lighting they were using just a few years ago. I remember growing up in the late 50s, early 60s, and being able to go out in the backyard with the family and in far north Dallas and being able to see all the constellations. And my dad would point out the constellations. You could see the North Star, which is barely visible out north of Canyon Lake now. We just started our website this month. It's online, Comal County Friends of the Night Sky.org, and has loaded with information on how you can save money, improve security with night sky friendly lighting. What I've seen since I've moved to Central Texas just 6 years ago is a huge increase. Of course, with the population comes the lights, and many people from the larger cities aren't aware that there are constellations out there. But anyway, thank you for helping us to increase the awareness. And like I say, in March we started out with 10 people north of Canyon Lake that were concerned. And today we have 270 members in our group, and 4 other groups have started in surrounding counties to help preserve the night sky. And there used to be a song, I can't remember the name of it, about the stars being big and bright deep in the heart of Texas. That was in the 40s. And there used to be a sign on the exit on 306 and 35 with those words on it. And every day on the way home from work, I'd see that sign, and it would make me angry, actually angry, because I was watching week by week, watching the stars disappear, and it's something I've always enjoyed. And I'd like to invite everybody to go out at night, turn out your lights, give your eyes a chance to adjust, and look and see what you can see out there. And please visit our website, Comal County Friends of the Night Sky.org. And I still haven't read all of the website. There's plenty on there and a lot that I didn't know before we opened it up. Thank you.
Ms. Wells, she's going to take a picture. You came by yourself. Go ahead. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll stay 6 feet apart. We'll do it this way. Hold up the proclamation. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next up is item number 5. Number 5, city employee recognition, employee introductions. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kane, City Administrator.
Chief Eberhardt received a thank you from a Mr. Thomas Elver. He was thanking Chief for his consideration when he provided him with a bottle of water while he was on a biking trip. He went further to say that providing that water to him was done in a very timely manner. He states that he and his family appreciate the Chief and the department for their high quality of service on behalf of the community. as well as they expressed to the entire department that we put them in high esteem in their efforts to keep law and order in our communities so that all can feel safe. I also received a telephone call from a Mr. Henderson, who is a resident here in Garden Ridge, and he was so extremely appreciative and complimentary and expressed how impressed he is with the Garden Ridge Library, librarian Linda Crossland and her staff, what all they have done to make the Garden Ridge Library a great and neat place. He loves the library and all the activities that they offer, and he just really, really expressed his gratitude towards the library. Oh, one more. I'm so sorry. So sorry. The Forest of Garden Ridge Homeowners Association expressed their thanks to Lieutenant Bellinger for attending their Homeowners Association annual meeting last week, I believe. And they thanked him not only for his time, but also for the duties he and the rest of the department do to make the HOA and our city a safer place to live.
Great, thank you. And we're going to turn it over to the chief.
Stand up here.
So it's a little easier to see everybody. So I've been putting this off for a couple of months, but I wanted to come in and introduce one of our new officers, Matthew Mckenzie. He's back here in the back. He just hit his 6 months. Like I said, I've been putting this off, hoping things would get where I could actually introduce him to you and get him up here. Things didn't work, so we're still having to do this at a long-distance relationship. But Matt comes to us with quite a few years. He served 20 years in the military between the Marine Corps and Army. He's got numerous ribbons, awards, Bronze Star, multiple deployments overseas, so a lot of respect for the man. He's got 3 years of service with Trinity University, and then we brought him on board over here. He's going to make a great addition to our community out here. Along with Matt is his wife, Sarah, his oldest son, Logan, and his younger son, Levi. So I wanted to bring them all out here and introduce them to everybody.
And normally, you would then be able to come up here and we could shake your hand and all that, and very clearly we can't do that. But thank you for being here. Sarah, thank you for being here, and Big and Little L, thanks for being here as well. I'm sure you're very proud of your dad, and we look forward to having him be an important part of our city. So thank you. Back over to you, Chief.
I was going to introduce a second gentleman to you, and he was going to be starting his 3rd week of training. He decided to take a different professional approach and go off in a different direction, so he has tendered his resignation, so I have nothing further to give you on that officer at this time.
Thank you, Chief. And it's on the agenda, that's why it had to be mentioned. And then turn it back over to Ms. Kane for item 5F.
Okay, we have several employees this month with anniversaries. Brian Horn, 4 years. Marissa Spencer, 5 years. Dwayne Scognio, 7 years. Stanley George, 10 years. Manuel Troncoso, 12 years. And Linda Crossland, 13 years. Thank you all for your service.
We wouldn't be the great city that we are if it wasn't for folks like that, and we really appreciate their service. and we appreciate their dedication. So it's, and they were good pictures. I don't know, we've gotten better with the pictures too. Whoever's taking those pictures, thank you very much. Next up is item number 6, citizens' comments, and I'm told there were none, no signups. So no citizens' comments. If you had thought you wanted to comment and you didn't get a chance to do that, remember at the end of the council meeting tonight, you have another opportunity to do that, and you do not have to have signed up for that. Moving on to item number 7, consent agenda. There's 6 items on the consent agenda. They're in the package. Council, you had them ahead of time also, obviously, and want to see if anybody would like any of those pulled, or if you would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 7. Anything to be pulled? Go ahead.
I move to approve the items on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from place 5 and a second from place 1. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving on to item 8, staff reports. And council, remember in these staff reports, we are keeping the continuity of operations item on there as well. So you can expect that each of the department heads will refer to how things are going in the context of the public health issue, and if they're changing any procedures or modifying any procedures, and they've been doing that for the last few months, so they're going to continue with that. So I will turn it over now to City Administrator for monthly activity report.
The only thing that I would like to add to my report is to remind everybody that early voting will begin at the Community Center on October the 13th through the 30th, as well as on Election Day on November 3rd. Hours for early voting are listed on the city's website if you would like to find out what hours the polls are open. I would like to ask our Finance HR, Karen Ford, to talk about her area, her department.
Good evening. I just wanted to let everyone know that we've made a conditional offer for a part-time accounting assistant. That was a position that was funded for in the fiscal 21 budget, so yay. If all the conditions are met satisfactorily, she should be starting next week or the week after. And then the other thing I'd like to remind everybody is that flu shots are tomorrow for all employees and council members, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the council chambers, so we hope to see everyone there. Thank you.
I'm going to ask City Secretary Marissa Spencer to talk about her area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So within admin, staff has been doing well. Ms. Hinojosa, our utility clerk, has been a great addition to our team. Her training is still ongoing, but it is going well. She's been a quick learner, and she's definitely enjoyed meeting and interacting with our residents. We are going to do a change in our lobby hours effective next Tuesday, since Monday is a holiday. We'll start on Tuesday. We'll go back to our 8 to 5 lobby hours. We have been doing 9 to noon, so we'll go back to 8 to 5. And if we decide at some point to change those hours, I will let council know and give you an update on that in the future. Otherwise, we're going to continue with our precautionary public health measures that we've had in place for many months now. They've pretty much become routine at this point, and all of the protocols we have with dealing with mail, packages, just to make sure that everyone is staying safe and healthy. We've also finished our project of having the ability to conduct virtual meetings, webinars, etc., both in here and in the back conference room. Final touch is to increase our bandwidth so that we have the right internet in order to actually productively conduct these meetings instead of seeing a frozen face and a scrolling, loading constantly. Otherwise, that project is near complete. And that is all I have.
Okay. Starting over on the left side, comments or questions on any of the stuff from 8A, whether it be with City Administrator, with FM, HR, or with admin? Left side.
No, just congratulations to, there must be something about October. We have so many hires in October. Thank you for everyone, to everyone.
The flu shots, I encourage you to do that. The Shirts EMS folks are very kind to come over here and do that, and it goes really quickly. And you all are eligible for it if you haven't gotten the flu shot already. And this year, more than years in recent recollection, this is kind of a big deal to not end up with the flu, and then people think you got some other kind of flu, if you know what I mean. So to consider that. And the other thing is, Ms. Spencer was being very kind. Our bandwidth, for some reason, has turned to garbage. It's so poorly delivered to us at this point that if you're a fan of checking speed of your internet with a speed test, there are times we can't get the speed test to load. So, yeah, it's that bad. So, Ms. Spencer, thank you to you, and from what I understand, some other folks up there are getting ready to go on the attack with our provider, and hopefully we can see some improvement. Next up, we got the police department. Chief, floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Most of the information I have for you is already in the report. I will bring attention, we did have a large amount of training that went on last month, and a lot of that had to do with the new employee who separated, but the supervisors also completed a great deal of training as well. That will continue on. Everybody knows National Night Out was canceled. We went social media sites on those and been putting information out that route. I would like to let you know that I have no idea this time what's going to happen for court. We are going to coordinate with the Office of Court Administration, the district court that has our region, and the judge, and figure out what we're going to do. And as soon as I know, I will pass it all on to you. That is all I have at this time. Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm looking to see if we got the, so what they're about to show here is just to underscore, and that's not, yeah, okay. What the chief was talking about, council, is clearly our N&O has gotten bigger and better every year, and we've been riding a wave that and has been completely extinguished with COVID. So to make sure that people know that we still are here, we still care, that our community is still knit together, we're engaged to put out social media blasts and informational blasts every day for a week surrounding what would have been National Night Out. And the police department, it's theirs, they took the lead on this. They solicited from the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association and others to put together some, if you would, tips, but just things to, number one, remind people that it's the time of National Night Out, where we would be getting together and we would be coming together to support law enforcement in our community and get to know each other a little bit more, that we don't get to do, but also to raise awareness of some of the issues of security in our community. So, and that's what you see here is where the note went out and talked about how it's taken a new look.
I should have elaborated on that more, I'm sorry.
No worries. And the other thing is, council, you got a note on the security cameras in the community center during voting. Chief, I forgot to mention this, but it's an important thing. Chief, I just want to acknowledge that the chief took the reins on this and said, we need to make sure that we protect our facility, protect the equipment in the facility, but that we don't run afoul with any election law when it comes to recording in an election area, and has certified that the cameras in no way can record any of that activity, but can still protect the installation and facilities. And we notified the county elections folks to make sure that that everything was above board, transparent, but yet we want to protect all that stuff as well. So Chief, thank you very much for that. That's a big deal, really big deal. We're talking federal law and all kinds of other stuff that we need to make sure we had our I's dotted and our T's crossed.
Thank you.
So questions or comments for PD, right side? Left side. Okay, next up is item 8C, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the month of September, the Public Works Department for the drainage and stormwater has collected approximately about 120 pounds of trash.
You're going to have to turn that on, Stephen.
It's on, he's just talking softly.
Talking to the actual microphone. It's the little black piece right there by your thumb.
We have collected approximately 120 pounds of trash from the city right-of-ways and have mowed 3 drainages and have recorded at the Public Works yard 4.25 inches of rain for the month of September, something I'm going to try to add every council meeting of a rainfall amount. For parks, we have replaced 2 broken activity wheels on one of the playgrounds, installed 2 new touchless faucets for the bathrooms, purchased 2 new steel benches for the trail area, also have purchased red sand for leveling out the baseball diamond, and have been working with the Parks Committee to define the trails with limestone base leading up to the Pavilion 3. We have also purchased some new baseball bases and added 5 more trees that we're going to put in Paul Davis Park. For city's facilities, let's see where I put that at. We replaced the roll-down projector in the community center with a wall-painted widescreen, so for better viewing. Currently, we have 2 dogs and 1 cat in our kennels. And that's all I have to report.
That's the other dog, yeah. It looks a lot like my dog. I had to do a double take when I saw it. Comments, questions, left side for Public Works.
The mayor only has 1 dog remaining, I believe, still.
And also an 18-month-old for the record, so it's enough.
No, thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of activity. Your list is long, and those few words represent a whole lot of work. We appreciate not only all that, but all the work that you're doing to coordinate with the Parks Committee to improve our parks and maintain our parks. So thank you, and thanks to all your folks. Next up is item 8D, Water Department.
Council.
We haven't. We
I have
actually have a name tag for you. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
So I have a few things to add to the report. Well number 9 is back up and running. We did get a notice from TCEQ on the increase in samples per the increase in population. We have been taking 6 samples. They increased it from 4 to 5, so we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Yesterday we had the pre-construction meeting for the AMI project. The meters they are on order and should be in the beginning of December and hopefully installed by Christmas. We are working on some educational material for the customers. Mayor.
Great, thank you, Chris. So the educational material, Ms. Balby's been working on that with a team, and we're going to ask her to give you, council, a quick rundown on what they're doing. Go ahead.
Hi. So Councilwoman Swint and myself created a communication rollout plan which contains monthly phases. We have already begun educating residents by creating a AMI graphic, which we included in the utility bill this month. And if it could be shown on the screen. And then our goal is to have continuous communication with residents about this transition and educate as many residents as possible. We also have more information available on our city's website under the Water Department's page, under the AMI project. And there is our graphic that we included in this month's bill insert. Thank you.
And thank you, obviously to you, but to the team working on it, to our water department and to our water commission, all having a role in that to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to understand what this advanced metering infrastructure is all about, what this new equipment will do for them as individuals and what it does for our city. A big leap in capability and big leap in user interface. It's really cool. I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate the ability for them to be able to watch what's going on, and it's going to obviously help the city quite a bit as well. So thank you, Kat, for that. And Chris, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Well done. Thank you for standing in and taking care of business. The water department's doing great. A little short-staffed every now and then lately, but still making sure that clean, safe, available, reliable water is getting out to everybody. We appreciate all that y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Questions on the education as well? Anything? Okay. Next up, 8E, library. Ms. Crossland.
Good evening. I always say, is it on? I'm sorry, Officer Mckenzie isn't still here. I wanted to mention he came to our special preschool story time for community helpers, and it happened to be on 9/11. And he did a phenomenal job with those little kids. And now seeing his children, I understand why. We're going to have another special story time on October 23rd. Sherry Miller is going to bring a guide dog in training. He's still a puppy, but she's going to talk about the service animal training program, and I think it'll be really special. And it just happens that Comel ISD is going to be out that day, so maybe a few older kids can fit in. It would be good. Our volunteers have nearly all returned, and the few that have not have underlying health issues, and most of them have said, yes, we're definitely coming back, probably when there's a viable vaccine or when this all goes away, we would think. One thing we did make a decision on is, we have strict cleaning for our books and how we clean and sanitize them, and we're going to keep doing that. As we have cleaned, you wipe off, you use a wipe or some paper towel or something, and we've seen there's just plain dirt on all of them. So we're going to continue. We're going to keep on having clean books. Do you have any questions?
Okay, starting over on my immediate left, well, this way. Anything? Yeah, keep you guessing. Thank you very much. We appreciate it all, and that your volunteers are jumping back into it and dedicated, and your discussion today about looking forward, checking in with the volunteers, seeing how much they're willing to do, it shows how much all of you as a team are looking to keep the library a vibrant and pertinent place for kids and adults to go. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next up is item number 9, City Engineer Project Status Report.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Continuing to work on the 2252 TechStop project. Good evening. Continuing to work on the 2252 TechStop project. We've had several meetings with TxDOT over the last month, coordinating various portions of the project. Looks like we have about 7 areas of conflict, and we've been working with TxDOT to attempt to see what various options are to resolve those issues, work with their plans as well as future city plans for water utilities. So I expect next month to be able to brief the council in further detail about that, the work that's being done, and what potential projects may be to move that forward. The project continues to move forward. TxDOT's looking at utility relocates in 2021 with construction beginning on the roadway section late 2021. So we'll continue on that. Second is the 2252 wastewater project. Again, we're continuing to work through that. We've released contract documents to the pipeline contractor. They're assembling their bonds and insurance documents. We'll probably have a pre-construction conference later in October. And then we'll continue to work with the other suppliers for grinder equipment and looking at rebidding on the pump and haul basis. So that work is all continuing and moving forward. So happy to answer any questions to the council.
And contextually, 7 remaining conflicts as opposed to how many when they first started?
We were about 17 or 18, yeah.
It's good, good work.
Okay.
Still got a ways to go though, as you well know.
Yes, yes, we do.
But we appreciate that. Thank you. Starting over on the right side. Thank you, sir. Moving on to item number 10. City Commission Committee Reports, recommended and possible actions. First up is Planning and Zoning. Chairman Dr. Miller, come on up, sir. Had one meeting since the last time this body's met. We have some recommendations, and we also have a public hearing, but we're going to start with item 1A.
Good evening, Council. We had 3 expiring terms on our commission as of 30 September. 2 of the commissioners, Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Jackman, expressed a desire to continue, and we recommend reappointing them to another term, which will end in 30 September 2022. The 3rd commissioner was probably, or may have well been, the longest-serving commissioner in the city, Commissioner Kitty Owen, who, as I understand, had served the city for 22 years. Ms. Owen, according to Ordinance 210, exceeded the term limits, and you may recall approximately 2 years ago, we lobbied for it, and the city council let us keep Ms. Owen for another 2 years because we didn't have qualified applicants for the place at that time. I've been assured by city administration that this time we have some people that are interested in the position, and we had to let Ms. Owen retire, if you will. We pointed out to her that there are other opportunities in the city to volunteer if she so desires. That having been said, we're going to miss her because of her historical perspective of the city, and it'll be hard to replace that for the last 22 years. We also had some petitions for rezoning.
And we're going to get to those.
Okay.
One thing at a time. Let's just do this item first. So the recommendation from
the
Planning and Zoning
recommendation from
is?
Planning and Zoning was, again, to reappoint Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Jackman. And again, we'll wait some appointment of a replacement for Ms. Owen.
Yes. So council, contextually, since Chairman Miller mentioned it, not only was it because we didn't believe we had qualified applicants in the wings, but it was also, if you remember, there was a turnover in Planning and Zoning where we pretty much had everybody new. And so it was a high risk to say we were going to lose somebody that had a lot of experience when we had everybody else, not everybody else, but most everybody else being brand new, because there was a high turnover at that time. Now we have some stability. The chair has been the chair for a while and been on Planning and Zoning for a while. The vice chair has been on planning and zoning for a while, et cetera. So there's a lot more stability in there. That's another reason why not asking for any more waivers on Ms. Owen. But that said, for the record, amazing contributions to city and to planning and zoning, and publicly just have to say that she is given selflessly for decades, literally decades, and we really appreciate all that she's done and brought to that position. That said, now going to the recommendation, Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Jackman to serve a second term, or excuse me, another term, expiring on the 30th of September 2022. Have the recommendation from Planning and Zoning. I'll entertain a motion, and we can do both of them at the same time.
I move to approve the recommendation of Planning and Zoning to reappoint Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Jackman, with our thanks as well to Commissioner Owen.
Great, thank you. That's a motion for place 5. Can I get a second? Second. For place 1, I got a second. Any further discussion or questions? Right side. Go ahead.
Nancy, is there anybody else in the city here that's been on a commission for as long as Kitty has?
Not that.
I don't think there is. She is,
And I'll just, for the record, since she wasn't on a mic, she said not that she knows of. She's not on mics. Don't look at me like that.
okay, well, I just want to thank Kitty for the 22 years she spent here. She's seen the city obviously grow, and she's been a big part of it, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything? Okay, so barring any further discussion, kind of a motion for place 5, second for place 1. All in favor of the reappointment of Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Jackman, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. And please pass on to Commissioners Diaz and Jackman that we appreciate what they've done so far, and we appreciate that they're willing to step up and continue to serve for another couple of years. Okay, so now moving on to item 10A2.
We had 2 petitions to Planning and Zoning for rezoning of some parcels in the city. The first one was I didn't write out that whole, I thought you would take care of the preamble, if you would. The first parcel is a Nacogdoches Loop and involved a area that was going to be subdivided into office or desired to be subdivided into office and retail and some warehouse spaces. Had a good presentation by Richard Winkler for that rezoning. And he pointed out there's very little traffic on Nacogdoches Loop that would cater to retail at this point in time. He also pointed out the potential for some increased tax revenue from having that area developed. That being the case, we recommended disapproval of rezoning that area, basically because it was not compliant with the city's long-term comprehensive plan, which it has to be by local government code. So we recommended disapproval of that request for rezoning. You want me to go into the second one, or?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, just this one. We have to do one at a time. Okay, so, council, you received this ahead of time, and you have the wording in front of you, and you got the recommendation from Planning and Zoning for disapproval for this petition. What we're going to do now, before you have any opportunity, we're going to ask, I'm going to open up a public hearing, and public hearing time will be at 6:54. And if you would like to speak during this public hearing, by all means, come on up. You'll have 2 minutes. We ask you to say your name and address first, and then go over to the table where Ms. Spencer's standing with a piece of paper that was in her hand to go ahead and write your name and address on that. So Again, it's opened at 6:54. I ask if anyone would like to participate in this public hearing and speak on this matter. Anyone? Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Richard Winkler, and I'm the one that had requested a change on the zoning. And I'd just like to point out that, you know, we own Winco Contractors, which is at the end of the road on, right at the turn on Nacogdoches Loop. And that is basically what we were wanting to do, is to recreate the same atmosphere we have on our place. If people have gone by there, you can see that it is very well kept. We've got trees. We have very little traffic coming in and out, and nobody knows we're there. And like the gentleman had said, that for retail on that area, there's no traffic. If there is traffic, it's people that are caught in delays on 35, and they're trying to get around, get somewhere, and they drive down there, and they're not going to stop anywhere. And just, you know, in looking at the revenue, I know we own that, and with agriculture, the city gets somewhere around $60 a year on all that land. And if we look at what we pay for the city, you know, we're about $4,300 a year on our parcel. So if you take ours times, I think it was 8 lots, you take that and, you know, you're in a 10-year period, you're $250,000 versus $600. So I think it would really benefit the city to go ahead and do that. And, you know, you've got tree ordinances, you've got fence ordinances, lighting ordinances, so, you know, you can control it pretty well that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And to be clear, he is the petitioner, so council, you have plenty of opportunity to speak to him, ask any other questions. He didn't have to do it then, he could have done it, but I don't, you were on a roll, didn't want to stop you. Anyone else wish to speak during this public hearing? Going once, twice. I'll check in now with the city secretary, because during our public hearings for COVID, what we do is we also solicit that if anyone would like to submit written comments during the public hearings, they are afforded that opportunity by 4 p.m. today, and that was announced well ahead of time. And so I believe that she has some, or at least one.
I have one for
So go
this
right
one.
ahead.
It is from Ronald Travis, president and owner of Ratco LC. I own the office building 18945 FM 2252, or parcel number 12 noted on your sketch sent referencing the proposed rezoning of land along FM 2252 and Nacogdoches Loop. The result of allowing the proposed rezoning will place in the future 9 commercial/industrial businesses on the proposed new lots. Besides my historic Bracken Village that is south of this location and the stone office building across the street at 18945 FM 2252, the street I also own 15 such commercial/industrial properties in Comal and Bexar counties. These proposed lots would indeed be ideal for commercial and industrial warehouses because they would sit on large lots, allowing a great yard around each building. What I fear is that instead of the nice office buildings sitting on tree-lined lots like you have been allowing along FM 2252, you will now find chain-linked fenced gravel yards full of all the kinds of stuff allowed in L1 commercial industrial properties. Look at the mess south of Garden Ridge where there is nothing but metal warehouses popping up. Do you want that in Garden Ridge? The residents of Garden Ridge won't enjoy looking at the mess, and it will hurt the market value of other properties in the area. I recommend you vote against the proposed rezoning and keep to your offices nestled in trees.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Okay, so I had no one else that wanted to speak, and we had only one written comment. So I'm now going to close the public hearing at 6:59, and then turn to council and open it up, starting with the left side closest to me. If you have questions for planning and zoning or questions for the petitioner about this petition?
Petitioner first, I guess. Mr. Winkler, you have been, I know, following what the city has been doing for quite some time, because we worked with you on some projects, water and that sort of thing. Along the line, have you ever heard of us designating that area as light industrial in our comprehensive plan or our master plan?
I have not. The only thing I know is we have light industrial where we presently are.
Well, you've been tucked away back in there for quite some time before
Nope.
we ever started doing anything about the improvements along 2252. So right now, we don't have that in our plans whatsoever. And you've made reference in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and again here tonight, that there's no potential really for retail use on that corner site. And I think that's exaggerating the fact. We don't know what the potential is for commercial on 2252, and we won't know that until we get the sewer system in. And then we'll see what's going to take place. But I don't think that you should plan on us changing zoning to light industrial on that site anytime in the near future.
Okay.
Well, that's my opinion. And then,
Since he's there and we
Okay.
got the
Yeah, go
COVID thing going on, let's check and see if anybody has any questions for the petitioner. And then we'll have the opportunity for planning and zoning chair if you have questions. It'd probably work out better. So, Councilman Arvidsson.
I'm trying to formulate a question here.
Okay, we'll go to the next person and we'll come back.
Yeah, come
in.
back to me. Give me a second.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Bauer.
No, I'm aware of the petition and the zoning meeting and all that, so I agree with Mr. Lancy. It doesn't really fit with our long-term plan. So I would be concerned as well if in the future, if we did vote to rezone this, and for whatever reason you chose to sell the property, then we don't know that you do maintain your property well, but the future owners would maintain it as well. Thank you.
Sure. So now you have no more time.
Okay, yeah, I guess what concerns me is what comes along with L1. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, maybe you guys aren't there anymore, and also that we've got some real industrial stuff coming in there that doesn't really fit what we want in the city. And I do understand your point, because you guys are back there, and it would be a lot like that, but why not go for something that's along with our plan, get it rezoned into that, and see what could be done with that property. I have a hunch we're fixing to, I hate to use the term explode, because I don't want to see traffic and everything else coming into the city like it's going to, but that's going to happen with the schools that have opened around us and just the crazy growth that's going on around here. So why not go down that path? I think that's the more viable option. And it's not you personally, it's controlling what's going to happen in 10 years, 15 years, those kind of things.
Okay, sir, while you're there at the podium, since you are the petitioner, if you have anything to respond to any of the things that we said, I'd like to give you that opportunity before you kick you away from the podium so I can get the planning and zoning chair up there.
Okay, I understand, everybody's concern, the not knowing, but there is a lot of land up and down 2252 that is available, and it is zoned for retail, and it's also, zoned for B1, B2s and whatnot. And also I think we have been in our present location for, I think, 4 years. So it was 4 years ago that we were able to go L1. Our first business, which was behind where we are now, we were B1 on that business. So anyways, that's about all I have.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
I believe we have, if you would like, I believe we might have some questions for you, Chairman Miller. And we'll start with you, because you did say you have questions. Go ahead.
Dr. Miller.
Sir.
I would like to tell you that your entire commission did a great job the other night. I was very impressed. You seem to have one question coming up every time you deal with the new individual about property along 2252, and that is the property being under contract or being closed into that individual's name. Doctor, with the exception of Tony Oberman and Wes Gleckley, everybody that you have coming in front of you will be trying to negotiate a contract subject to the zoning change. They're not going to be owning that property prior to knowing what they can actually do with it. So just be prepared with that with your group, because you're not going to see anybody owning any of that property along 2252 until they actually know what the zoning will allow for them to put on it. That was just a casual comment I want to make to you. But you all did a great job there.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Am I to read that what you're saying then, you'd like us to pick up the pace on the draft zoning ordinance change? That's basically what.
That's a really good assumption. I'll speak for him on that.
What's that?
To pick up the pace on the.
Oh, no, not at all. It's just that it comes up all the time.
Certainly.
And
Certainly.
I would just put it aside, tell everybody, maybe they're listening tonight, that you're not going to see anybody in front of you that already has a closed deal, period, with the exception of two people I just mentioned.
Thank you, sir.
Anything?
I think that's a great observation, and I think that's just going to keep picking up. It kind of goes along with my earlier statement that we're going to grow, and what the city looks like 10 years from now is going to be determined, quite frankly, by the people sitting at this dais, and even more so, I believe, by you and your commission. So it's going to be interesting times.
Ma'am, anything? Sir?
Yeah, could you go over again why the commission disapproved it?
Recommended
Or recommended to have it disapproved?
Basically, what it came down to, we had a lively discussion, I would say, and may have been leaning one way, but under advice of city attorney and the city administrator, it was pointed out to us that the request for rezoning did not fit in with the city's comprehensive land use plan. And it was pointed out by the city attorney that by local government code, it had to. And since it didn't, it was a cut and dry issue. The request for rezoning did not fit in with the city's long-term comprehensive land use plan. That's basically what it came down to.
Anything else, sir? Okay. Barring any more questions from the petitioner, to the petitioner or to planning and zoning, and look for a motion for action on this petition.
I move to decline the petition for considering that light industrial property versus agricultural.
Okay, so for item 2.3, I have a motion from place 3 to deny the rezoning request. Can I get a second?
Second the denial.
I get a motion from place, or excuse me, a second from place 5. Any further discussion or questions? Left side,
No.
right side. Barring any further discussion, all in favor of denying this petition, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Mr. Winkler, clearly, without a doubt, and I think you kind of heard, and a little bit in between the lines here too, that everybody does appreciate what you do, your responsibility that you have there. I think the real important takeaway here, and something that personally, as the mayor, I appreciate, is that planning and zoning said, look, we have a comprehensive master land use plan. If we're going to continue to change it parcel by parcel, why do we even have it? So I appreciate that they did that. There's no doubt about it that you would, whatever you do there, will take very good care of it, and a great landowner and from the responsibility standpoint. So please understand that it is really about the way the council and planning and zoning for, well, quite a bit of time over the last few years has been trying to move the development. So thank you for your time. And Chairman Miller, same thing. I appreciate all that y'all did on this one and your consideration. So now moving on to item 10A3. It is the second petition.
This was a petition by Scott Smith for rezoning from a residential area or agricultural district to a neighborhood service B1 district, further down on Nacogdoches FM 2252. It was the proposed use for that piece of property was office and retail space. The commission discussed the rezoning's relationships to the city's comprehensive plan, and it fit. And he had some more long-term plans for possibly a second structure on the property than he presented to us. We discussed that for quite a bit of time. But it did seem like the plans blended with the neighborhood's present character, and again, fit with the comprehensive plan. So our recommendation from Planning and Zoning was for approval of this request for rezoning, but with contingencies. The contingencies being that at the time, Mr. Smith didn't fully own the property, and the commission and the city, by extension the city, didn't want to rezone a piece of property that he didn't own. And so the contingency was he's supposed to come back to the city administrator after or contingent upon approval by city council and provide proof of purchase of the property before we'd say for sure we'd rezone it. I think I got it right. It was
Yes, sir.
It was complicated.
So bottom line, recommend approval of
Yes,
this
sir.
petition, but with the contingency that it does not get rezoned until proof that the petitioner has actually purchased
Yes,
the
sir.
property. So in your motion, it would be that you're delegating the actual execution of the rezoning to the city administrator on that contingency, if you so desire. So that said, I'm going to open up a public hearing at 7:12 and see if anyone would like to speak during this public hearing for item 10A3. Anyone? Once, twice, three times. There's a petitioner here, by the way. Okay. City Secretary, do we have any written
I have no
comments?
written comments.
Okay, no written comments. Thank you. And so, with no one wanting to speak and no written comments, at 7:13, I'm going to close the public hearing and then ask council if you would like to ask questions of the Planning and Zoning Chair, starting over on the far left side.
Yes, sir. I was there, and I believe they were with their agent. I think there were about 3 parties involved
Yes.
at the meeting.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
they were given the date of this council meeting, and they assured us that they would have the documentation in place in time for this meeting. Apparently, they don't.
That I do not know about. We'd have to ask the city administrator as to whether or not they've submitted the
So
necessary
if I may
documents.
jump in, to be clear, are you saying that they were going to come here with the executed documents?
They said they would have they would have proof of ownership or the sale document. They conversed among the realtor and the buyer, proposed buyer, to say, can you make that deadline? We told them the date of this meeting, and they said, oh, sure.
So I wasn't there and you were, so that
Yeah.
you're a great person to ask. I was under the impression that after this was approved, then they would execute.
The way I understood it, they felt like they could have the dog, Ms. Kane was there, is that how you recall it?
Ms. Kane, go ahead.
There was some discussion about perhaps having that by this meeting. I have not seen anything. I have not received anything.
Chairman,
I would say that my understanding was they were going to have the documents 30 days from approval by city council. That's the way I understood it. Not necessarily, Commissioner Bauer, that they would be here this evening with those documents. I may be wrong. I looked at.
Or I may be wrong.
Yeah, well, one of us obviously is.
so aside from that issue, which I think we can still remedy with a qualification on a potential approval, do you have anything else for?
Yes, and the discussion, you refreshed my memory on the discussion of the second building, because I know there was discussion about that. Could you clarify that a little bit more, please?
At this time, he provided a rough sketch, not to scale, of a office building. I can't remember the square footage, but it fit on a lot. We felt that if nothing else, we would get a second bite at this approval if it went through, because he would have to have some variances and possibly some special use permits granted to have the second building or even the first building built. So we'd get another shot at it if we did rezone it. It is in character with the office buildings which are directly across the street from it. It looked like a fine plan. I believe it's up in that area where the Covenant Baptist Church is, and it fit in with the comprehensive plan. So we felt it was a good bet, so to speak.
Answer your question?
Yeah, excuse me, yes, other than just, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I think they have a full understanding of that they would have to have, any additional building would have to be in compliance. It's not a given that they're going to get that second building.
Certainly.
Right, I mean, that'd be my understanding.
Fair enough. Is there anything? Sir?
Let's see, Cynthia, do we have the ability as a city to demand that a contract or this situation be closed before we change the zoning? Seems a little awkward to me.
Well, first and foremost, the thing to keep in mind is that we cannot grant a rezoning petition to anyone else other than the property owner. And it was not discovered until at the meeting itself that the petitioner was not the actual property owner, that they only had the contract for sale in place. And so this would be the only way to remedy this particular petition.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that. Doctor, do you have, I heard the first building is going to be an insurance office, and how he wraps retail into the insurance office, I have no idea. He tried to do it. Makes no sense to me. But what's the rest of the building going to be used for? He said 10 or 15 different tenants. You have any idea?
Mostly professional offices, not all insurance, but he's going to sublet them to other professional businesses.
Okay, so counsel, it appears to me that we have an office building going to go in a area that we have intentions of putting retail commercial business in. That's basically what this is. Am I right, Doctor?
Roughly, yes.
It's the same thing you're going to see right directly across the street from it in the multi-use or multi-tenant buildings that they have for real estate offices and whatever else they have, or attorneys' offices or whatever. So when I first heard about this and they said retail, I said, well, that's pretty much close to what we want in there. But then I got to thinking, office buildings, I don't care whether it's insurance or what, is not a retail establishment. So initially, I agreed with what the doctor and the commission decided. I'm not real up on this right now. Again, we're putting an office building in a retail zoned area.
Ms. Kane, go ahead. You have something to add to that?
The zoning ordinance that we are having to apply to this application is what we currently have existing. And in B1 zoning, which is retail or neighborhood services, office and professional is an allowed use within that zoning district.
So the catch to this, and I'm just going to jump in here, is that you're not approving that it's an insurance business. You're approving B1, and and then it's going to have to go through all the work to design and get approved whatever they're going to put in there. But I think that's a separate issue, because right now, even if he came in and said he wanted to put retail in there, it'd be the same zoning request. Correct?
Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong. The improvements we're going to allow along the 2252 corridor on the south side of the road were supposed to be business retail. Am I correct? Have I missed something in the last couple of years?
No, you have,
Go ahead. No.
Oh, okay,
All
I'm
the
sorry.
office structures were supposed to be on the northern side of the road, am I right?
In our prior master land use plan and in the current one that council has adopted back in 2017, office and professional remains on that boundary of the residential area. Across 2252 is where we have the retail.
Right.
So that is consistent, that has not changed. Now, another thing to remember, before this property is unplatted, it will have to be platted prior to any kind of construction, and they will also have to submit, along with that platting, a master land use plan, a master plan, so that that will guide how that property is going to, the platting on that property.
Okay,
And if
well, maybe I'm wrong here. What side of the road is this on?
This is across the street from Dr. Howell's and Mr. Cleckley's office building.
Okay, well, that's on the retail side of the street.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
why are we talking about office professional on that side of the street? That
Because
was
our,
never designated for office retail.
because our
Or
current
office.
zoning ordinance allows office and professional to be located in your retail, which
What
is
is our
neighborhood
future
services.
zoning?
Our
ordinance?
future zoning ordinance, let me call it proposed zoning ordinance, because it has not been adopted,
I
will
understand.
also allow the same.
Okay.
So consider you're not, with this rezoning, you're not approving this specific business and building.
No.
You're approving,
Mayor, I understand that. I'm trying to establish that we're going to put an office building there or commercial retail. That's all I'm trying to establish. Now, I don't want to drag this out, although it has been. We don't know what the potential is for that whole area along 2252 being absorbed as business retail. So I think in the future, sometime we're going to have to start allowing some of these office professional buildings to go in there. So I don't really have a problem with it right now, but I just thought that right now, in our future zoning, that area was specifically supposed to be business retail.
key here is future, unfortunately. That's why, when that question was asked, and I said, yes, we do need to accelerate this. And it's very, very good reason why. So, yeah. But the net result of this right now is it's still the same, it's the same classification.
I understand, okay.
Anything else?
No.
Sure. So, absent any other questions, and we don't have the petitioner here, would entertain a motion for item 10A3, the petition for the rezoning. Anyone?
I move to approve the rezoning of Mr. Smith's property.
Okay, so I have a motion from place.
Subject to, is this?
Yes, thank you for doing that.
Okay, subject to the closing in his name of the site.
So, legal, I'm thinking the way to word this is to delegate that to the city administrator. Is that appropriate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I withdraw that because I can't say his name because it could be a corporate name also, so. I move that we approve this and have responsibility of our city administrator to execute it.
Contingent
on
the
his
petitioner
closing,
actually owning the property. Yeah.
this petitioner actually owning the property. Is that good?
Now, to just make it a little bit more complicated, should we put a timeline on this? 30 days, something like that, so it doesn't stay open-ended? Is that reasonable, legal?
Yes, sir. I think we had initially indicated 30 days.
Okay, so if you would, you're still talking, so you can just add to it.
Subject to a 30-day closing period.
Okay, great. So what we have is a motion from place 3 to approve this rezoning petition with the contingency that the petitioner has to own the property, and within 30 days, the city administrator will then execute the rezone. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 4 with a second. All in favor? Or first of all, any further comments or questions? Absent any, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Dr. Miller, back to you for 10A4, monthly activity.
The rest of the meeting was caught up in a discussion about the rewrite of the draft zoning ordinance. We're trying to move it along. I know it doesn't seem like it. I don't know how many times I've sat up here and said, we're getting close, we're getting close, we're getting close. But as we go through some of this growth, as limited as it is along 2252, or the applications of developers and owners for rezoning, variances, and special use, we're finding gaps, if you will, or oversights in some of the things we were going to put into the draft ordinance, okay? Much like I spoke last month, the density problem with the garden homes, that didn't really register until Mr. Overman came up and made a proposal, and we said, whoa, wait a minute, that's way too dense for that area. The Water Department or Water Commission, when they're rewriting their ordinance number, I think it's 159, excuse me, they found some passages in their ordinance that were exactly the same as some passages that were in ordinance number 13 that we weren't aware of because we weren't looking at 159, we were looking at 13. Luckily, due to their diligence, we found the discrepancies, and we got to work on that. There was some home-based business discussion about garage sales and estate sales, and not having limits on how long they could have those, whether there should be fees involved, et cetera, et cetera. So there's things that have come up only because, or luckily because, we're getting some movement along 2252 that are bringing them to the surface and sent us back to the drawing board a little bit, not a whole lot. We're as close as we can be. It's been submitted to the city secretary, who has the Herculean task of going through and trying to put it all together. Okay, that's how close we are, try to put it all together, as long as we don't keep adding stuff, every time we have a meeting. She'll get there. From there, the way I understand it, and I have to phrase it like that, from there, it goes back to the technical committee of the planning and zoning, okay? We look at it, and that's limited to, I think it's 3 members of this committee, Councilwoman Bowers, the city administrator, city attorney. We'll look at it again, make sure it all jives again, okay? And then we'll submit it to planning and zoning, the whole committee, because they haven't seen all this, okay? They haven't seen the changes yet. The only one that's seen it is the technical committee, okay? So it goes to planning and zoning, and they'll go through it and make sure we didn't overlook anything. We're trying to be as complete as possible. Then we have a public hearing in there somewhere. I think it's after we submit it to planning and zoning. And then if we approve it, if planning and zoning, when I say we, I'm talking about planning and zoning approves it, then we send it to the strategic committee, okay? The strategic committee, I may have it out of order, so they can figure out how to present it to you guys and how to coordinate presentation to you guys. Do you want us to hand you the whole document and give you a couple of months to go over it? Or whether you're taking it at face value? Then there's another set of public hearings, and it's approved. So it's complicated, but we're a little bit of ways. We're not adding anything to it other than things that come up over the course of the growth on 2252. It's frustrating for us. We were real close last year. Just about this time, we were close last year before the legislator pulled the rug out from underneath us. And we had to relook some things. I can guarantee you this, that the documents you see will be examined very closely. We have some charts and things that speak to a lot of the things that have come up over the last few months that were recognized as problems in the old Ordinance 13 that will be clearer in the second one, or the new one, than they were in the first. The developers will have less questions. They will be applying for less variances, less special uses and things like that before they even go to the city administrator with their applications. Things will be clearer, okay? But I can't think of any other way to move it along any faster than we are. Trust me, we'd all like to be, I shouldn't say it that way, but we'd all like to be rid of it and be through with it. We've been working on it for 2 years plus. I know that.
Okay, sir, anything else?
No.
We like to watch you squirm and stuff.
Left side, questions, comments for planning zone?
Yeah, I just personally question the need for the strategic committee, because I think it'd be like any document that is presented, any agenda item, short or long, is presented ahead of time. And we could extend it like a month or something, but ahead of time to council for review. Each individual council person has an obligation and you know, the opportunity to ask questions prior to a meeting such as tonight. So I don't see the advantage of going an additional step, personally, because these are the same people, the strategic committee would be the same people who would be reviewing. I'm just talking to you, you know my position on this. The strategic people are the same people who would be voting on it, yay or nay, and we're always going to have you available and Ms. Kane available and Mr. Vino available to answer questions. So I don't see the need for an additional step, because like you said, this legislature threw us a curveball. We want to get this done before the next session, next fall. So I personally just don't see the need for a strategic committee.
I'll take that under advisement.
So for the record, the strategic committee isn't another step. The strategic committee was nothing more than somebody representing the two bodies to be able to coordinate how that was going to be scheduled and presented. That's it. It wasn't for them to review it. It wasn't for them to do anything else. So I don't know how it's turned into an extra step. It's merely because otherwise what we end up doing is we ask staff to poll everybody. We don't get answers, and it takes forever to be able to figure out, do we need to have joint meetings, separate meetings, joint and separate meetings, whatever it is. That's the only purpose of the strategic committee. It's not to do any reviewing of the documents or anything else. So it may have sounded like an extra step, but it's not an extra step. Is that clear?
As crystal.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Wasn't this strategic committee approved and requested and approved last year?
Yes.
And Kay and I were going to do that?
No.
Okay.
It was
Me and John.
you and council.
Okay. Well, I'm still open for it.
As are the commissioners on P and Z.
Great. So,
Doctor, all you have to do is let us know, because that's where we fell off the last time. Nobody let us know.
okay. Anybody have anything else for planning and zoning? Sir, thank you. Y'all are really doing a lot. That's investment in the future. Also, kind of being the standard bearers of what's going on right now. You know, the two petitions and the way that you applied the acid tests to them and everything is something that we all are benefiting from, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on now to item 10B, Quarry Commission. Chairman Holly, come on up, sir.
Mayor, Council. Well, we have a simple situation. We have two members who are, they've expired, including myself as one. We need to get your approval to continue with the Quarry Commission because of, how do you call it, ordinance 210. Says we need to retire or move on or do something.
Okay, so Chairman Holly, let me help you here a little. If you look at the agenda, you'll see that the first one, 10B1,
Yes.
1.1, is for the reappointment of Commissioner Baruki.
Correct.
Does not need a waiver, who's just in a situation where he just needs to be reappointed. And yours is a different story. So that's why we separated them on the agenda.
Okay.
So the first one is, we need your recommendation for item 10B111. That's the Commissioner Baruki one. What's the commission's recommendation for that?
The commission's recommendation for Commissioner Baruki is to reappoint him.
Great, thank you. Council, we have a recommendation from the Quarry Commission to reappoint Commissioner Baruki for another term expiring September 30th, 2022. Any questions for the Quarry Commission Chair or a motion? Anybody?
I
Move to approve.
Okay. Got a motion from place 1 to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 5 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now, the second one is different, and it's you. So council, the deal with this is the ordinance 210 has a 4-term waiver, remember, 4-term limit. And then to go beyond 4 terms, need to have council approve this for purpose of good cause, as you see in the writing there. And if you look in 210, it says that reasons can be no potential candidates that are on board or coming up. We can tell you in the situation of the Quarry Commission, we do not have any potential candidates that are ready to jump in there. And the commission had a recommendation that I'm not going to put words in the chairman's mouth, so I'm going to ask him to tell you what your recommendation is.
Well, my recommendation is that I get extended for another until September 30th, 2022.
And to be clear, it's not your recommendation, it's your commission's recommendation, right?
That is also the commission's recommendation.
Great, thank you. Okay, so based on that, 10B112, the commission has recommended that Commissioner Holly, who is serving as the chair, that you waive the ordinance 210 term limit and reassign him for a term to expire September 30th, 2022. Any comments or questions for the commission? You're leaning forward. Oh, because you wanted to, I get it. So barring that, any motion for this? Anybody?
I move to waive the stipulation in ordinance 210 and recommend reappointment of Commissioner Holly for an additional 2-year term, very much for a good cause.
Perfect, thank you. Can I get a second?
I very much second.
And place 5 with the motion, place 4 with the second. And any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Please pass on our thanks to to Commissioner Baruki for being willing to step up and do it for another couple of years. And moreover, we thank you for being willing to stay on for another term and to stay at the helm.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to item 10B2.
Okay, that's the partial exemption permit for Buckley Powder. They're the blasting company for Hanson. And they submitted all of their documents and everything. We've reviewed them. The commission reviewed them. And we actually, we recommend that they get their permit. And the cost of that will be handled by the city.
Yeah, we'll talk cost in a minute, but
Yeah.
yes. Perfect, thank you, sir. So, get a motion to accept the recommendation to approve the partial exemption permit for blasting activities by enhancing quarry by Buckley Powder. Can I get a motion, please? I'll give you a chance. Go ahead.
Nancy, is all the assurance and everything in order?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I move to approve.
I get a motion from place 3 to approve. Can I get a second? Second. Place 1 with a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Has there been some excessive activity this week in particular that you're aware of and been notified of?
Not this week, but there has been some activity from the blasting company. They've rattled a few communities and whatnot, but it hasn't been overly excessive. They've always been blasting below the ordinance limits and actually below the, I want to say the .1 standard, way below that, the .1 standard. So that it's, people I feel have been becoming complacent with it and thinking that they're not blasting, but they are blasting, but they are blasting very lightly, if you will, and that's a good thing. And Buckley Powder has been doing it quite well compared to some of the other companies that they've had.
The reason I asked, for the first time in 20 years, all of a sudden this week, a crack developed in one of our outbuildings as well as on our detached garage. The foundation fell away from the rebar. And that has never happened, and I did hear and feel a significant something or other. I will admit I forgot to report it, and so I don't know when it was, but it was within the last week, and that's why I was asking. And I live over on Garden Ridge Drive past Bat Cave. I mean, I'm not next to Quarry. So I just wondered if there's any other reports filed.
No, there's been no reports, and we would really like an opportunity to possibly place a monitor in your area there, maybe on your property, so that we could get some sort of a baseline for over in that area even.
I'd be willing to do that. This was exceptional. I don't know what happened. I mean, I find it odd that they're two freestanding buildings, at the same time develop cracks. I mean, that's just, I'm from Houston, so I understand subsidence and all that, but I don't think anything's subsided over there. So I might reach out to you on that.
Please. But no, there hasn't been any enormously large blast or anything.
Might have been a truck rolling down Back Cave at 85 miles an hour.
I hope not.
Anything else?
No.
I hope.
No, I do not.
And we didn't have to call a special council session.
So I get a motion for place 3, second for place 2. Barring any further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This is unanimous. And this next item is item 2.3. It's received recommendation from the city administrator regarding the annual fee for the exemption permit. And I'm going to hand this over to our city administrator, Ms. Kane.
Now that you've approved the partial exemption permit, it's time to approve the fee that goes along with it. It is recommended that the fee for this 2021 permit year, that it be $27,170.77, which is a 10% increase over the 2020 fee that was $24,700.70.
Questions or comments for Ms. Kane on this recommendation? Left, right side?
No.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to accept the recommendation from Ms. Kane on this fee.
Move to approve that the course exemption permit fee that's been presented of $27,170.77 be placed in for the 2021 fiscal year.
Perfect. From place 4, got a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 5 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. And turn it back to you if you have any other activity that you would like to report on.
Well, other than what Councilman Bowers has already brought up, there hasn't been a lot of blasting. They're beginning to get back into the business of doing what they do. I don't want to say blasting, but I did. And there's been a lot of, not a lot, but there's been more truck activity on 2252, but not enough to be concerned about because they're shipping to the asphalt plant, places like that, and to third-party companies that want their product, so they have to take that route out 2252 going north. And it has been brought up by Councilman Lancy that somebody noticed that, and they thought that that was kind of, well, it's out of their control. They just load the trucks and then the independent drivers take off and do what they do. So other than that, it's been fairly quiet, if you will.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Starting over on the far left side, questions or comments for Quarry Commission? Sir.
Hanson was very cooperative in trying to figure out what the concerns were about the truck traffic through the old town Comel up towards the Braunfels. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Hanson itself.
Yeah.
Though the few trucks that do go north on 2252 have been going to the asphalt company, dropping off their order and turning around and coming right back. So all this massive truck traffic that's up north of, farther north towards the Braunfels is a result of the quarry operations that they have going on up there, which are numerous. And all the, they have a couple new asphalt plants up there too, so it has nothing to do. But I do want to say that we have a new plant manager, and he is every bit as professional and cooperative as Jake and Hal were, so we have another good person to work with. That's all I have.
Speaking to the plant manager, thank you for reminding me. They have, they're working on changing the way they warn us about the blasting. And that general idea is they will sound a horn or a whistle, however they do it now. Right now it's a horn, and it will sound for at least 2 or 3 minutes before, or for 2 or 3 minutes, it will be quiet. Then the blast will occur, and then after that, maybe once it's all clear and everything, then they will sound another 3 beeps or 3 horns saying beep, 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 to show that it's all clear and all the blasting is completed. That is the new procedure that this manager has brought on board, and it's a safety procedure so that everybody can hear what's going on in the quarry. That's about it.
Yeah, thank you very much for all of this, Chairman Holly, and we're going to work on getting you somebody else on that commission, but we know that it's not always the most fun work on that commission, but it's important, and we appreciate the dedication and the patience that you all put forth on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is item 10C, Water Commission. Chairman Valdez. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and council members. I think for a change, I think I have the shortest report from the commissions this month. Only had 1 page in the agenda in your packet. So first of all, we have 3 commissioners that their term expired last month. All 3 commissioners indicated their desire to seek reappointment and to continue to serve on the Water Commission. The Water Commission voted unanimously to recommend the reappointments of Commissioner Andre Bullard, Commissioner Joe Haldeman, and myself to serve for additional two-year term expiring September 30th, 2022. I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor Thompson, for action.
Great, thank you, sir. And yeah, all of them together, none of them are approaching term limits, as you see in your package. So take a motion to reappoint Commissioner Valdez, Bullard, and Haltman to another 2-year term expiring September 30th, 2022.
I move to approve all 3 of them.
Motion for place 1 to approve.
With a raise.
Thank you.
Can I get a second? Place 3 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? Right side? Left side? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous, and yes, thank you, Chairman Valdez, and I'll see the other 2, but publicly thank Commissioners Bullard and Haltman for, and you know, if you watch, because you don't necessarily have to go, you can watch a Water Commission meeting. They're quite busy. The joke being that tonight he doesn't have as much to talk about, but there's still a lot going on, and they're quite busy. So we appreciate what they're doing. So we appreciate they stepped up for another 2 years.
Well,
next is item 10C2, monthly activity.
Yeah, well, now that you're reappointing me, I guess I'll continue with the report. Otherwise, I was going to sit down. Okay, so other monthly activities. We did have one leak adjustment request that we discussed. No action was taken pending city staff's follow-up with the petitioner to clarify the request. So we sent that back, actually. Water Commission project update. All the projects are working real well. The ordinance review project subcommittee is working on ordinance 54, 61, and 159. And as Dr. Miller mentioned, the Water Commission presented the proposals to change on the zoning ordinance with reflection to 159, and that will be following changes. Ordinance 61, that the draft version of the revisions needed some corrections, so it wasn't presented yet. Hope to present at the next Water Commission meeting on the 27th. Ordinance 54, they're about one-third through it, but they got a lot of work to do there. It hasn't had a really good review in a long time, so a lot of work going on. The next subcommittee was Source and Supply Management. Last month, the city administrator reached out to 2 water leases. Still trying to get a hold of one. Got information back from the second one, and we'll get we asked the subcommittee to meet with the city administrator to come up with a recommendation whether to continue with their lease or not. So we'll look at that next month, at the next meeting also. The water rate subcommittee we're waiting for the fiscal year closeout to obtain the water consumption data from the last fiscal year, and plan to present the water rate study to the Water Commission also on the 27th. Next meeting's gonna be real busy, as you can see. And then we'll have that for the city council for the November 4th meeting. So future meeting is Tuesday, October 27th. And then also we looked at the next November and December Water Commission meetings. The 4th Tuesday falls on Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. So the commission recommended and approved to move those to the 3rd Tuesday. So those meetings will occur on November 17th and December 15th. And they've already been updated on the city calendar. Turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir. Starting over on the far left. Questions, comments for Water? Appreciate all you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is item 10D, Wildlife Management Advisory Commission. Mr. Krasinski is not here, but the Vice Chair Kniper is here, so he's going to represent.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we have 3 of our members that are, their terms will be expiring. It's Commissioner Minor Williams, Commissioner Bippert, and Commissioner Drickta. They all volunteered to serve another term, and they were unanimously, their extensions were accepted and approved, and we await your action now.
Okay, thank you. So, all three, you can see no issue with term. So you got Commissioners Minor, Williams, Bippert, and Trickta to need a motion to bring them on for another 2 years, ending September 30th, 2022.
Move to approve all three.
Place 3 with a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second the motion.
Place 5 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimously approved. And please pass on to all three that we appreciate, again, their willingness to serve the city and serve the commission in a not always fun commission, I know, for another couple of years. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead now
We
with
will.
item 10D2.
We also received a recommendation from our commission and from Mr. Lohman that we purchased 2 new gates for our traps, for the hog traps. And the recommendation was accepted with provisions that the trap would, the phones would be acceptable and with the band length that the city currently has. And Mrs. King was going to check this, and I don't know if she got approval from, that it was going to work or not. But that's our contingency, is that they must, to operate those gates, and when they close them, it'll be done by a phone. If it cannot be done, then we don't want them to purchase them. So our recommendation is to purchase those 2 trap gates.
Okay, so to be clear, you talked about some cell phone stuff or whatever, but what we're really doing here is purchasing the equipment for the hog traps, which includes that other stuff, right? So it's all encompassing. Yes. This letter has, do we have to do the math to come up with what it really is? 600 for cameras. Is it $70 for all of them? So $670, and then another $28.90 or $29.97. Go ahead.
The fees that we would have to pay Verizon associated with being able to monitor those cameras is going to be about $1,440 annually.
Okay, all of this comes out of
Wildlife management's line item, yes.
Okay. So again, the equipment is like $3,500 or so,
Yes, sir.
and then $1,400 a year for service. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So council, if that wasn't clear as mud, that's what we're bringing to you for the recommendation to purchase the equipment for hog traps and the associated support for it. Any questions, starting over on the right side? No.
Yeah, I have several questions. What do we do with all this equipment and the monitoring fees when we're only really having hog problems 2 months out of the year? Do we just pay for the entire year? And
Currently, we don't know. Trophy Oaks use theirs more often. So that one, it's more than once, maybe 2 months out of the year. They've been pretty much having hogs trapped quite a few during the summertime. The only one that's only had a few hogs trapped was in the one in George Ranch. I think having the cameras and the gates that were operated by those cameras, it'll trap the larger quantity, and we won't have to rely on game cameras and then trying to bait them. So Mr. Lohman's the one that is operating those, and he's the one that said these are the kind of gates he would like to have, because this would help him be more efficient in trapping the feral hogs in both Trophy Oaks and in George Ranch, or anywhere in the city where they would move them to.
I have no problem with spending money on this sort of thing, but again, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that we have a 24/7, 365-day a year hog problem. We don't. The hogs come and go, and they're there a couple months out of the year, and then they're gone again. When it starts to rain, we won't see them again for 6 months.
So.
So we're paying $1,400 a month and not really using it.
So I'm going to stop you there, and Mr. Steinmetz, I'm going to put you on the spot, and if you don't have the answer, that's okay. But do you happen to know the track record of trapping the hogs? I've been to the traps. I've seen hogs trapped in Trophy Oaks throughout the year, but I have no data on it. Do you happen to at least have a little bit better than mine just saying it's something like this? To address what Councilman Lanzey's saying.
Yes. A lot of the times when we're trying to trap the hogs, Eric will have to bait the trap for a week or two to see what's coming in. This way, he'd be able to pull the trigger on 2 hogs. If he sees 2 hogs in there one night, he can take them out right there and catch them, and basically catch a whole lot more hogs versus waiting for 10 to 15 hogs to try to be in that trap at once. So I think we'd probably catch more hogs that way if we're able to monitor it remotely.
And the issue of it being just a few months out of the year versus all year. Again, my non-scientific observation is I've seen him do it throughout the year in the back of Trophy Oaks, as opposed to George Ranch, where it was when summer drought, people given nice lush green wallowing areas for the
Acorns. Acorns.
And acorns, and the acorn thing. But so to address Councilman Lanzey's point, are we getting them throughout the year, or do you think it's only at a certain time?
We get them throughout the year. We just get bigger herds certain times of the year, but we get rogues pretty often that come through the traps.
And this year at George Ranch, we did some construction work on all of our detention ponds to improve drainage and to get everything flowing better. So that noise from the construction also has helped keep the hogs out of George Ranch, I think. And I know the water line, and they've been doing some work on it that Saw's put in, the big line. That is also, they've done construction work back there. So I know that has also deterred some of the hog action coming in from into George Ranch.
Well, regardless, sir, is that
Well, keep in mind, I live down in the Wall Lane too. I know everybody lives on the cul-de-sac, period. And I know when they have hogs the day they have them. So that's kind of where I'm getting my opinion from. That being said, I dislike paying AT&T or Verizon any money that's not warranted for their use, because
We understand, sir.
they're screwing us every time we turn around anyhow. So I just want to make sure it's well spent, because I don't see it being well spent. But I don't mind spending it. I mean, it's out of the budget for wildlife management. That's what it's there for. So.
And big picture, it's just a little over $100 a month. So the alternative would be for us to track when we are and when we aren't, and then cut the service for the months we're not, and evaluate what kind of fee we have to pay to reactivate and see if there's even a reasonable payback on it.
It was $1,400 a year, not $1,400 a month.
$1,400 a month, a year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, not a month. Good Lord, no. Ms. Kane, you have something to add to that?
I just did a real quick total. So with the purchase of the gates, the cameras, the monitoring fee with the telephone company, cellular company, and the batteries, you're looking at about slightly under $5,000 total for this particular fiscal year if this is approved.
Yeah, it's 4939.97. So, does that answer your concerns? Anything? Wait, I can't. Did we already cover you? It's been so long. Do you have anything? Go ahead.
And after the first year, it's $120 a month.
Correct.
thereabouts, and I don't know if, if batteries will come into play, some miscellaneous fees.
Okay, so, 49, 39, 97 the first year, and certainly don't know how much subsequent years comes out of Wildlife's budget that you have already approved, but looking for approval to go ahead and make these purchases. Can I get a motion? Go ahead.
Just want to remind Ms. Kane to talk about Eric Lohman and how this plays into the factor of money. Paying him.
Okay. What happens since Eric is an hourly employee? Every time he monitors those cameras, then we have to pay him. So in the middle of the night, if he gets a ping that there's something going on, and he has to monitor that the cameras, say for 45 minutes to an hour, he will have to record that time, and we are going to have to pay him. So this will incur some overtime as well.
Okay, that would have been good for me to know prior to 8:05 council night, but the thing about that is we'll work on that. We'll figure out if there's some way that we can give it to Mr. Kniper and he can monitor. No, I'm joking about that. But it may be looking at adjusting a schedule or something. And who knows what the impact of this is. But if I would have known this, I would have examined this a little bit more carefully. So we'll figure this out. I don't foresee it being a showstopper at all. Thank you for bringing it up. That said, anybody else have anything to add to this that we haven't thought about? Okay, so I need a motion for the approval of this purchasing of the equipment for the hog trails. Andrew? Place one with a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place four with a second. Any further discussion or questions? Right side? Left side? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving on now to item 10D3.
We received a report from our Parks and Wildlife representative in New Braunfels, and the population is up this year. And we're recommending that we remove possibly 100 deer, which will be and no more, because that'll pretty much take up the rest of our budget for the fiscal year. And if it gets to be more of a fee, with most of those deer, we're hoping to be able to translocate rather than to remove. So this is what we're proposing to council, that we remove about approximately 100 deer within the city of Garden Ridge if we can find a place to trap them. And last year, no deer were removed at all because we could not find a place to. No landowner gave us permission to place a trap on their property.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to discussion and questions, starting over on the left far side.
Sorry, I had a question and it just went out of my head. I'm sorry, would you come back?
Certainly.
Please.
Go ahead.
The first question I had was, if you look at the report from the wildlife biologist, he recommended 300. I kind of thought it might have been a budgetary issue.
Yes, sir. Because of budgetary issues, we dropped it down to 100 because that would fit within our budget.
Okay. Because we're up, if you look at the City Public Services report, the deer carcass removal, we're like 32 ahead of last year. So obviously the herd's increasing. Everything just kind of connects into that. I'm not sure how to address the getting land to trap on. It's unfortunate that a portion of our population, the last time we tried to trap, was so, I'm going to go there, I'm going to use the term vile, to the people who did volunteer their land that nobody now wants to have to be subjected to that sort of treatment. So I would hope folks would hear this and understand that this is necessary per the experts, and it's something that we need to accomplish.
Did you come up with, go ahead.
Yes, I recalled my question, two questions, actually. The gentleman that had the contract, it was contingent for renewal for 5 years each year. Is he still interested in the contract? Okay. And then...
And hang on a second, because there was no audible for the recording. So was there a head nod or something? Okay. I want to have the answer on record is what I'm saying.
Mr. Murphy is still on board with the contract and interested in being able to work for the city.
Thank you. And also, I understand from the meeting, at the time of the meeting itself, we didn't have an option on TTT, is that correct? But we still don't have clarification on that? The biologist has told us that there is a potential location for TTT. But we don't have it confirmed.
No, we have to apply for the permits first before that can be, that a location can be worked on and proceeded with.
Right, I just heard a lot of potentially, or there may be and all that, just trying clarification.
There may be a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any locations to put the traps for this year?
I don't believe, but not, as far as the commission knew, we did not. I don't know if the city administrators had reached out to any of the landowners to see if they would.
At this time, we do not have any locations.
Okay, well, following up on what Todd had to say, I wasn't aware that we had any intimidation taking place with these landowners, but I would like to look more into that. I think we'll put it on the agenda for next month. Chief, I'd like you to participate also. Thank you.
Sir? No. He was off mic and he said no.
No.
You were doing so well tonight, Mike. Okay, so the recommendation is to trap 100 deer pending being able to get a place to do it. The intention is to do TTT, and this is already budgeted in the wildlife management budget. So any further questions or get a motion?
I move to approve trapping of 100 deer this year, subject, of course, to getting locations.
Okay, I get a motion from place 4 to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from place 3. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Do you want to be on record why? Do you want to be on record as why?
My own personal research,
You want to keep it personal though, huh?
very personal, with capital P, all caps. Yes. Yes, I'd like to not trap deer this year, thank you.
Like cats.
It's a different matter.
I have 1, 3, and 4 with yes, and 5 with no, with a personal reason. And ma'am, just so you know, this is a pretty hot topic in the city, so I'm trying to get an open dialogue on the pros and cons and anything else. And if somebody's going to say no, I think it would be instructive and useful to say why. But I can't force you to speak.
No,
You
I'm
have-
just,
and you-
I don't think that's a fair assessment across the board in other subjects, just for the record. There's been other issues where people have said, no, you're not questioning it. I know this is a hot topic. I will say that I do respect what the wildlife biologist said, and I do respect that there may be an issue, but I also did look at the chart, and we are not where, and he did indicate, we are not where we are, at the 5 deer per acre. And so I think based on that, I personally am willing to review this for another year to see what happens. Well, I'm sorry, I said it backwards, okay? But my point is, no, it's not personal. It's not personal. I don't care. I mean, it's not personal. I don't feed the deer. I don't give the deer drinks or water or anything like that. And I don't have an issue with them being in my yard or not in my yard. The only thing I have an issue with on the deer is if they attack my dogs through the fence, which they've done. That has nothing to do with trapping. They don't come in my yard like, for example, cats come in my yard. So it's not personal in the sense of anything anyone has said, social media, management, the commission, anything like that. I just think it's premature.
And that's helpful. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Because during the discussion period, none of that was said. And then the vote is a no with no explanation. And no, this is a lot hotter topic than a rezoning of a piece of land or most of the other things that you're voting on tonight and recently, in recent recollection. And I thought it would be important for everyone to know why you're saying no. And if there's anything that the rest of the staff or council would find useful in your opinion of no. That is the reason I asked.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I got a 1-3-4 yes and a 5 no. Motion passes. So back to you, Mr. Vice Chair Kniper, for your monthly activity report.
We also got, one of our commissioners asked the wildlife specialist about the health of the deer, and he said they all looked healthy. He didn't see any look sickly when we did the 3 drives on to getting the deer count. He says the herd is very healthy and it looks well taken. You know, they're managing their weight and they all look good. The other thing is he will prevent. I'm not sure if it's going to be in October or November. It'll be on the city's webpage when he comes out. He'll speak on chronic wasting disease. He's done a lot of research on this, and he says he's very knowledgeable about it, and he wants to address. We've asked him to come back and talk to us as a commission and have an education portion of that. Other than that, that's all I have, sir.
Great, thank you. Starting right side, any final questions or comments for wildlife management? Sir? No. Sir? Ma'am?
The only thing I have is I apologize. I wasn't prepared because I wasn't expecting to have to talk
No worries,
tonight.
you did great. We appreciate,
thank you.
what you and your commission's doing, and we appreciate that you stepped in.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to item 10E, Parks Committee. Mr. Chamberlain.
I appreciate it. We did hold our general meeting last month on September the 9th, and I wanted to give you a review and update on what's happened in the last 30 days. To give you a review on the update of ordinance number 24, which is the rental of the facilities at Paul Davis Park. The city ordinances have been reviewed. We have draft edits that have been made, and we will be reviewing those at our upcoming Parks Committee meeting, which is next week on Wednesday. After that discussion, then hopefully I'll be able to turn it to the city administrator to have a further discussion and review, and then bring them back to you after that, at that point. The items I'm about to talk to you about as far as an update could not have happened if we did not have the collaboration and the support of City Hall, Public Works, and also the Water Department. Together, they've really been very supportive of helping the Parks Committee move forward on a lot of activities. Additionally, several members on the committee have made efforts out of their time schedule to go ahead and make sure we could move things forward over the last 30 days. With Paul Davis Park, if you haven't been out there recently, it has changed. We'll take a hard look at it. Be pretty easy to see. Just look across the baseball field and into Pavilion 3. Phase 1 of a new 300-foot long trail connecting the baseball field to Pavilion 3 has been installed, making it easier for people to go ahead and either walk, jog, strollers, or wheelchair out to Pavilion 3. Why? Because we're setting up to put into our rental program by the end of this year. It's our aspirations that we will continue to expand the trail, so any feedback you can give me on it would be greatly appreciated throughout the park. So once again, so people can actually enjoy not only the front part of the park, but also the back part of the park that comes into play. Landscaping around Pavilion 3, it has a complete new look with new landscaping and plant life that'll be completed by mid-November. Additionally, we are going to make a recommendation to the city administrator to officially add Pavilion 3 to the rental agreement with the updates on ordinance number 24. Price to be determined as we review everything on the pricing side. Baseball diamond, we're looking to make this a more desirable location for the citizens to hold practice and/or scrimmage games for both boys and girls. Complete facelift is currently underway. We're remaking the baseball diamond to be in alignment with Little League baseball dimensions, 60-foot base paths with 46-foot pitcher mounds. We also can be used for both Little League and for girls softball. We are going to be completing the dragging process has been completed, and we're now looking to level the infield with new dirt that is geared towards baseball infields. And we will be installing new home plate, pitcher's mound, and safety breakaway bases. The metal, we're finalizing the installation of the fence. We are really pleased with the growth of the metal. It's actually exceeded our expectations. We're already starting to see the plants starting to reseed for next spring. So I think next spring is going to really be a beautiful addition to Paul Davis Park as we go forward. And the final touch will be the installation of the Eagle Scout project, the Arbor and 2 benches, which was presented by Scout Alex Webster at last month's council meeting. And once again, we appreciate your support and the council's approval of the Eagle Scout project. I know he's excited about it. Pavilion 1, general landscaping and touch-up, including replacement of a dead tree. And the Public Works continues to enhance their level of maintenance on our flagship park, Paul Davis Park. Visitors are noticing the difference, and we are getting positive feedback as they've been out either walking the kids, the dogs, or just doing a jog around the place. Park Lane, we did an annual refresh on the mulch. A group of local volunteers in that area came out and actually worked on it pretty extensively on Saturday. If you get a chance to go by, it's looking really gorgeous and all the flowers are blooming. And moving on to what's going to happen the next 30 days. Pavilion 3, landscaping will be done. Ordinance number 24 will go to the city administrator. We will be replacing an old dog waste station at Paul Davis Park. We're hoping to have the baseball field completed with the new bases and everything put in place. And we will then extend our work and focus onto the pocket parks that come into play. As far as the task list of what we work on, I report on those monthly so we have a track of what we're doing throughout the park, and we can always refer back to it. We have 134 tasks that have been created. That's up 23 from last month. 51 or 46% of them are now closed for the year, and we have a subtotal of 65 that are actively being worked by either the committee or by Public Works as we go forward. Mayor Thompson, I'd like to turn it back over to you and any questions you may have.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So much going on. Yeah, and all you got to do is go out to one of the parks and you'll see that. But starting over on the far left side, comments or questions for Parks Committee?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. It's a team effort. Thank you.
I think you're doing a great job. I cannot believe how active your people are. That's many, many thanks.
Appreciate it. And we'll hear from him a little bit more in some events. But Mr. Chamberlain, thank you so much. Next is item 10F, Volunteer Garden Ridge. And obviously a hamper on a lot of that activity because of the public health situation. Dr. Miller, you don't have to get up. If you want to wave off, you can do it from the chair and I'll say what you did. Okay, so for the record, he waved me off. But we do have some numbers that Ms. Kane can give us.
Total 137 hours, volunteer hours during the month of September. Of those, 82 were in the library. 10 of them were here where the ladies come in and help us stuff the water bills, and 45 were volunteer hours from Parks Committee members.
Still, in the midst of everything that we're dealing with, for people to still be out here, and you know, we had the crew in here masked up, doing stuffing bills. When was it? Was it last week? It all runs together. Mm-hmm. But but yeah, so people still doing stuff, and as soon as we get through this, we'll work on reinvigorating some of the other parts of the program. But thank you very much, Dr. Miller, and thank you, Ms. Kane.
Well,
any questions or comments for VGR starting on the right side? No. All right, next up is item 11, approvals authorizations. First one is ordinance 143, and this is to grant, basically, you can read all that, and you already have, but this is to take action on a consumer price index rate increase and direct staff to update Exhibit A. It's not the ordinance, but the exhibit in the ordinance to reflect the price change dictated in the agreement with Republic. This is for commercial accounts only. The residential account will, the residential charge will stay the same. For commercial accounts, it's a 3.17% increase. You got the charts. Nobody sent in any questions, I think other than me, on how to read the chart. So I assume everybody else understood the charts and plus had better eyesight than me so they could read the really small fine print. But nonetheless, this is just the indexing of the costs and then have an attendant price increases. None for residential. Looking for your approval to modify the Exhibit A with a 3.17% increase. Mr. Armstrong has been very patiently listening to all the other stuff going on in the city. So now our waste management person knows more about what's going on in the city than a lot of the people that live in the city. So thank you for being here. So council, if you have any questions or comments on this, he is obviously prepared to address them. I won't ask him to go through masking up, coming up unless you do have questions. But starting over on the left side, any questions on this for Mr. Armstrong?
No question.
Yeah, it says the increase has not been assessed since Republic Services acquired Bear Waste.
That's true.
How long ago was that?
2017.
He's off mine, so I'll say
It's been 3 years.
2017. Okay. Is what his answer is. Good question. So that said, need a motion to approve this 3.17% increase for commercial accounts with our agreement with Republic.
Move to approve.
Got place 3 with a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 1 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? Left side? No. Right side?
Why
All in
don't you
favor?
say,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
mean, any reaction from the commercial customers?
Ms. Kane?
Or they even know about it?
I don't think they know.
they don't know about it yet.
Oh, okay.
We had to get the approval first before we can tell them.
We can't get out in front of your decisions. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. And just say that Republic, we're very fortunate to have Republic have the contract with us. Not disparaging anybody else, but a significant increase in responsibility, service, communication. And I personally am one of the 2 people that communicate with Republic the most when it comes to the upper level stuff. Now we got Shannon over here to talk to folks when trash cans are missing, stuff that's important to those individuals. But what I'm saying, where I'm going with this is that we really appreciate what Republic's doing. Appreciate that the assistance also in the education we've received with some of the big items that we're still in the throes of with household hazardous waste and some of those things. But since you're here, I can thank you in public for communication and open communication and all your assistance. Thank you, Sharon. Moving on to item 11B, that's the COVID update. First off is the status and pertinence to the things that are going on in Garden Ridge. Hot off the press. It happened this afternoon that Governor Abbott signed the most recent executive order. It's GA 32. GA 32 dated today supersedes GA 30 and but did not and GA 28 had already been superseded by GA 30, so that if you're not confused, that should confuse you. But all of the other ones, with the exception of 31 in that list, have been superseded, so, or not superseded, excuse me. So 10, 13, 17, 19, 24, 25, 27, and 29 are all still in force. So highlights of 32, since you may not have read it yet, the big one that you're going to see in the news when you go home, if you get home by 11 o'clock to watch, or 10 o'clock to watch 10 o'clock news, is that bars are being allowed to open up. There's some coordination that has to happen on the bar openings. The county judge has to communicate with TABC, and there has to be a petition for that bar to open, and they have to agree that they're going to abide by the stipulations in here, and people can only be seated, they can't be milling around and all that kind of stuff. But it's you can read it, it's online, it's available. But that's one thing. Another thing is that the requirement, the over 10-person requirement of getting permission of the county judge if you're in an unincorporated area, or the mayor in an incorporated area, stands. He actually reiterates it in GA 32, so that still stands. No. Now, there's a lot in there, and I don't want to spoon feed it too much to you, but he reminds everybody that the outside doesn't have a limit when you're coming to restaurants and bars, but there's a requirement for distance. And I remember his joke a long time ago, well, it seems like a long time ago, when he first put out the thing with restaurants, is he said, because we don't know what the capacity outside is, but we do know that everybody needs to be 6 feet apart. So basically a relaxing and kind of an answer to the prayer of bar owners, because the ones that couldn't figure out how to get to the 51% were hurting and they were closed. So they're going to be able to open up. He also reiterated in here some stuff about if you're over 65, you should stay home, Brian. And also still allowing people to go to nursing homes, but still some protocols and all that. There's some provisos in there that are consistent with the previous ones that don't apply to us, but I want to point this out because it could, knock on wood, apply to Comal County, and that is if you're in kind of a hot county. If your numbers are up, then there's some more requirements on you that don't actually fall on us in Comal County. So read that when you get a chance. It's not too long, it's only 6 pages long, but go ahead and take a look at that. GA 31 is still in force. That was back on September 17th. That was when the 30 came out, but that's been superseded. But 31 is important because it superseded 19 and 27, and it talks about hospital capacity and that you have that high hospitalization areas have restrictions on medically necessary procedures. So it's relaxing. The theme here is that for a while nobody could do anything that wasn't medically necessary. Now it's only in kind of hot zones. That's not the right term. It's not the appropriate term, but that's the best I got off the top of my head. The other thing is that that hospitals that in areas that aren't hot still have to reserve a 10% capacity for COVID response. So in other words, he's saying we're backing off, but we need to keep a little bit of ability to recover if something was to happen. That's going on in Texas, so it's pretty hot, like I said, because it just happened today. In the county, the hot thing is that tomorrow, the mayors and the county judge will have we will have a conference to discuss the very thing I just told you, because now it's part of the judge's responsibility to work this bar thing, and he wants to hear from the mayors, and so we're going to have a meeting, teleconference meeting in the afternoon tomorrow, and that's late breaking. I mean, it was just set up shortly before this meeting started. Otherwise, hospitalizations are down to less than 6%, and numbers are flattening. But the thing about the numbers, if you're paying any attention, is there's surges because of backlogs, and then there's other people saying other things, so, you know, you take the numbers for what it is, because frankly, I think the numbers are a mess. But bottom line, we all still have requirements for masking and for social distancing and the things with hotel, or with bars and restaurants and businesses and all that stuff, and the gatherings, et cetera, et cetera. If anything comes out of the meeting tomorrow, I'll be sure to make sure you get an update on it. I don't expect anything more than him looking for advice on how he's going to proceed with opening bars in Comal County. Along those lines also, JBSA, Joint Base San Antonio Commander, communicated to me, us in the city, that effective the 25th of September, they went from their health protection condition that was heightened. It was what's that? Yeah, went from Bravo to Charlie, so it lowered, saying, and why is that significant? Because if you have the ability to go on base, now you can go back on base. For a while, it was you could only go on base if it was called mission critical or mission essential. Now you can go there to hang out and do shop. Yeah, go to the bar. Yeah, so that is just another part of the story of what's going on around us. Then us, we still have the public health emergency, and expect, by the way, as far as the state goes, that within the next day it's going to be re-upped. The last time the executive order or the executive order for the declaration of the emergency was September 7th. So we're getting closer to 30 days. We expect it to be redone again. Why do you care? Because when that gets redone, ours automatically gets redone as well. So we're waiting for that, but I expect that to happen. There's a lot that you would expect with programs and money and all that stuff that's tied to it. I would be astounded if he let that expire. So you can expect that our public health emergency declaration ordinance 227 will stay in effect. We've only done one amendment. And then you've heard the things about the library and city hall and parks and what we're doing in the community event center and the pavilions and all that stuff. We still are encouraging everybody to safe practice guidelines, CDC stuff with all and also keeping in mind what the law is with masking and all that. As my authority from the governor on the over 10 people gatherings, I've now authorized 5 more events, and you're getting copies of those every time. I want you to have situational awareness on what's been going on. So, these are things pretty much that are at the park, Paul Davis Park, a wedding shower, rehearsal dinner, and the Cub Scouts having an event out there. What I do is I ask them for all the details. Well, and now we've institutionalized it that Ms. Kane is asking them for all the details. And I take all that and I write them a letter that emphasizes that they need to comply with all this stuff. Tell them that they're the belly button for this, and that if the police come out to just see what's going on, that they need to be able to show that letter. So we're still holding it pretty tight, and today it was reiterated. I was, when I saw this come out, I thought, oh, he might actually get rid of that as well, but he didn't. He left that and he reiterated it, so it's still in effect. The 5th thing that I've authorized under that authority is for the market at Garden Ridge to open. And I authorized just the October market with the contingency of let's see how that goes. And with significant precautions and procedures in place, they will have a hired monitor. I spent a lot of time talking to other markets, other mayors that have markets, to find out what they were doing and how they kind of rolled some of this out. And one thing that's been very effective is to have a monitor up in New Braunfels. They at both the green as well as the actual farmers market, which ours is not a farmers market, theirs is a farmers market. They have people that are assigned to be enforcers. And Mayor Brockman from New Braunfels emphasized how important that was, and he said that their monitors have actually shut down a couple of vendors who refused to comply with what they had agreed to comply with as signing up to be vendors. So I emphasized to the market at Garden Ridge manager that they need to do the same. So it'll be open, it's this Saturday, it'll be open, and we'll be watching to see if we'll continue with that. No, well, she said she hired somebody, and I didn't get involved to do, but no, it's not a city thing. So I want to tell you a little bit of, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Also, you heard the details about when the election is. It's posted on our website, all the early voting. If you're paying attention to the politics of it, there was a challenge that we should only have a couple weeks of early voting and not basically 3 weeks. And the judge that was responsible for that said, not so fast, it's okay to do it for 3 weeks. So we will be starting on schedule, and all of it's going to be up in there. And in the COVID context, it's up in the Wildflower Room to ensure that we can maintain social distancing for everybody up there and keep it safe. So that's the voting. And then the last thing for us is December 12th and 13th. So you'll hear about this again in November, but there's no reason not to talk about it now. The city, partnering with the Lions, Garden Ridge Lions, will have another blood drive up in the Community Event Center. That's December 12th and 13th. It'll be 2 days instead of one to be able to spread things out. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, that's it for your update on all things coronavirus and with Texas, Comal County, and the city. Now moving on to 11B2. Funding and expenditures from Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. And we got some great info on all this. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Kane, and she's going to parse it out to some of the staff as well. Go ahead. Actually, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions on what I just went through? Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm going to turn the financial aspect of the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act over to Karen Ford. She is turned out to be the guru for the city on that one.
I'm happy to announce that I have completed the filing for the CARES Act. So that goes to TDM. And it's a 7-step process that all the information that I send goes through. We are up to step 5, and knock on wood, I haven't had any questions yet. So 2 more steps, and then we will bring in the whole $226,655 for the COVID relief. That's it.
Couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay, now I would like to ask our Public Works Director, Mr. Steinmetz, to talk about the actions he's taking towards touchless fixtures within the city.
We are currently looking at replacing our existing water fountains in the city buildings with touchless fountains that also have bottle filling capabilities incorporated in them. Basically, the ones that are like in the lobby will kind of look like the same, but in the backsplash will be a bottle station for refilling. And we're probably going to be going for like in the office areas, maybe a wall type bottle filler that'll be kind of placed in the wall, have like a little splice from the sink, filling it full of water. It'll have a filter and everything like that. We're also currently looking to do the same for the Paul Davis Park. We have some fountains there right now, but we're going to have to look to retrofit them into having some sort of sensor that'll detect when somebody walks up to them. Also, we've been working with contractors, getting some bids on some automatic sliding doors like you would see at HEB, and also looking to get some trying to get a water softener for the buildings, since when we're going to upgrade all these touchless fittings, we want to kind of prolong their life as long as possible. So we thought it'd be a good idea to get a water softener for the buildings also. We've currently got some new touchless water fountains in the park bathrooms just recently this month. So if you wanted to kind of what they look like and how they react to the motion. You can go check those out there also. That's all I have to report.
I think that concludes our section of the,
Great, so all good news. Taking advantage of the opportunities availed to us to do some retrofits, and one of the things that Public Works is doing is pretty much just saying, okay, how can we eliminate touching a lot of stuff? And you know, whether it's, and he said fountains, but he meant the sinks. So the sinks, the toilets, and then also the fountains, dispensers for paper towels, all that stuff, everything, so somebody can, and even address the doors here. But everything we can do to just make stuff as touchless as we can do under the program that's available to us, and then all the great work that Ms. Ford's done to, you know, it doesn't happen on its own. If we didn't have her to research it, to find out what the bounds were, what we could do, couldn't do, then do all the paperwork to do it, then submit it, then answer the questions and ask the questions. It doesn't fall out of the sky. If we didn't do any of it, we wouldn't get any of it. So make no mistake about it. A lot of work was put into it, and it's really important. We really appreciate it. So any comments or questions starting over on the right side for the staff on this time?
With a little bit of extra money, can we get Karen Ford an extra microphone over there? I can still barely hear her when she talks.
Thank you very much, staff. Just a fantastic job. You know, this is kind of the making the lemonade here. You know, so appreciate it very much. 11B3 is your opportunity to take possible action on any COVID-related issues, but I also put on this time some events: Trunk or Treat, Veterans Day, Texas Harbor Day, and Christmas tree lighting, and quickly explain the reason why they're on here and for looking for your consensus. Is unlike the market, which is not a city function, which doesn't involve city resources, all four of these do. So I thought it appropriate that you find out what the staff and what, in a couple of the cases, what the Parks Committee is working on, and make sure that you're good with it. And then to get your consensus so we can move forward, since, as I said, it is city resources. So I'm going to just go right down the list. The first one is the Trunk or Treat, an event that the library did last year and would like to do this year. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Crossland so she can explain the plan.
Well, let's face it, kids love Halloween. And it's not just for kids anymore, because I think as we've grown older, we all seem to love it. Finances will tell you, commercialism is great with the Halloween season, with costumes for children, for adults, and pets. Yes, pets. Everybody spends money on something, if nothing else, for candy to give away. It's estimated that 93% of all children participate in Halloween activities, and that usually means trick or treat, which brings us to trunk or treat. Last year was our first time to have it, and it was a big success, especially for the first time. We had over 450 little princesses and pirates participating. I mean, where else can you get candy so fast? So much candy so fast. So we have evaluated what we can do. Mrs. Bippert and I really looked at COVID and all these things, and we really feel confident that we can do a safe and effective trunk or treat. You have up there the protocols. A minimum of 25, maximum of 25 trunk participants. The participants will wear masks and gloves and only distribute prepackaged candies or little favors in treat bags directly into the children's bags. No reaching in. You also have an agreement on the next, it was attached, that they will sign, the participants, the trunk participants, that they will, we will take their temperature, they will adhere to all the guidelines, the CDC guidelines. We will ask questions. Have you or your family been exposed to anybody directly who has COVID? Have you traveled internationally? Have you traveled to a hot spot in the United States? They will only be able to give out prepackaged treats or non-consumable favors in bags, and again, directly into the children's bags. And the trunk of the car will have been cleaned and sanitized with a disinfectant, and that they are doing this voluntarily. Do we have the map? Okay, this is, let's see if I can do this, Oh, okay, that's the parking lot, and we're going to do it's going to be taped off or roped off, and the entrance is right here. It goes in so that the line can go this way. People can keep a social distance going that way. They go in, and depending on how many trunks we have, we'll have a little path for them to follow, and they exit right here. If they wish to go to the food truck, that is over here near the safe zone, and this will have been blocked off, but of course it can be open for emergency vehicles to go in and out. The food truck is Gracie's Ice Cream, and she basically sells snack foods, nachos and Frito pie and hot Cheetos, hot Cheetos, I think it is, with cheese. And she has something called a mangonada, which I think sounds intriguing. As people go in, we have members of the GRCP-AAA who volunteer. We've got some volunteers already lined up. They will keep people from going in. You can only have one family group at a time. When the first trunk is clear, another family may go in, and then they can advance only when there's an empty space in front of them. They can't run back and forth. They'll have to follow a certain path. There will be signs to that effect, and they will be told orally as well. The trunk sponsors, okay, I've already mentioned they'll wear masks. Let's see. Oh, the food truck is not going to have tables or chairs, so people can't congregate. They just take their food. It's to go, just like you might go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A and pick up some food. The kids will be so excited to get candy, they may not be that hungry, but the parents might want them to eat something healthier. We have also some volunteers who will be inside that roped off area, who will be monitoring to be sure people are following the path that we've set up for them, so that they don't run back and forth to different cars, that they will stay pretty much in order. And I'm one of them. We will be willing to ask people to leave if they can't control their children or something like that. We don't expect that. They're going to be wonderfully well-behaved and orderly, don't we know? Halloween is just a really fun time for children of all ages. They looked forward to it for weeks. They plan these wonderful, elaborate costumes for weeks, and we feel like we can provide a safe environment for children to come and go. It's controlled by us, people who have a really good track record of cleaning and disinfecting. And there will be hand sanitizers all around. We're going to put signs that say Monster Slime. I think that will be helpful. Now, kids could stay home and watch movies, but how much more fun they'll have putting on their exciting costume and going out on the mighty hunt for candy. The library can make this happen in a safe environment.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So, council, to let you know, this has been a effort, obviously headed up by the library, and Ms. Crossland's put a lot of work into this, but also through, I would say, 3 staff meetings over the course of the last month plus to get ideas and work out any issues or anything from all of the departments to make sure that everybody understood what we were doing, why, and anybody had any comments, questions, concerns, and everything, we put it all together. So the bottom line here is this is something that we think is safer than the alternative. I want to bring Sophia up here. I don't really relish the idea of walking around to houses and knocking on people's doors that I don't know, and who knows what's going on at that house. Whereas when you step into, well, it's not there now, but that zone, you know that everybody that was screened, everybody has stuff that's been packaged. They're the only ones touching it. Nobody's sticking their hands in their bags or anything like that. There's people that are the enforcers that I talked about that has been useful in other areas and stuff. So strong recommendation to give your consensus on us doing this. The city resources, the on-duty police will be the on-duty police. We're not going to have extra police there, but there will be a cop that has a trunk giving out candy. There's going to be the on-duty, actually I think it might be Chris, are you the one that's on duty? So the on-duty person will be able to help if there's some kind of issue with, set up, tear down, anything like that. We intend to set up well ahead of time, long before anybody ever gets there, and tear it down the next day. And then obviously 2 people from the library, and then some other folks from the city are going to be involved, but personally involved with the trunk. So they're not. So the load on the staff is pretty low. City Hall will be closed, and another thing that you might be interested in is we talked to the food truck vendor to make sure that she knew that there's no guarantee that anybody will go to the food truck, and she's completely okay with it. She still wants to be part of it. So we said, yeah, we'll have the truck there, and if some kids want to get some of those or adults want to get some food or get something, they can have at it, but they're not going to be able to sit down at the table. So that's the plan. I want to open it up for comments or questions. We don't necessarily have to have a vote, but I do want to get a consensus. So first of all, just kind of going right to left here, any comments or questions?
Yeah, last year you mentioned 450. Did that include the adults?
Yes, yes, because a lot of adults got candy.
Just curious.
Yeah, it did.
How did you vote for
your I'm for all of everything that's on Section 3 here, getting life back to normal. My main concern is the same that I had back at the 4th of July. How much of our staff is involved, including our police department, in case we start, in case it starts hitting somebody.
Okay.
You're doing a good job to protect it, as was taking place in the 4th of July.
Okay.
But
So
that's my biggest concern.
So is that a question? Because I think I answered it already.
Well, you're asking for a consensus, and part of my...
No, what I'm saying is your concern, your valid concern about the
Right.
load on the staff, but I didn't tell you. Do you want me to go through it again?
No.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
I'm happy. Let's be safe. Let's press forward.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Yes, it sounds like you've really, to the best of anyone's ability, thought of everything. Plus, I think it's really wonderful to your advantage because, if I'm not mistaken, this is Saturday night as well, right?
It is.
So you probably get 500 or 800 for this.
Very possibly. We would be excited to have them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, there's a buzz about it already, and regardless of whether or not it had anything to do with COVID, the fact is this is a pretty good option. It's much safer than going around a dark neighborhood and not knowing what you're getting. And I mean, this is a great thing that we are looking to the future of building more of, and our library is really taking the reins on this thing. I appreciate it. Okay, so by consensus, are you all okay with this? All right, great. We're going to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is the Veterans Day celebration, and we'll go back to Ms. Crossland.
Well, I have already reserved the Wildflower Room for November 10th because it's a little bit small to have it in here, and so we can really spread out in the Wildflower Room. Lots of social distancing. Proper cleaning protocols will be observed because you know the city has very high standards, and they will continue to do so. Streaming on that nice new screen that was just told about will be available for those who are unable to come. The music teacher from Garden Ridge Elementary is checking on what they can do. She wrote me, the choir doesn't currently meet due to COVID. She says, I'm not real sure what we can do, but let me do some investigating and creative thinking. I can pull something off. She's a real dynamo. Foods will be wrapped rather than just on open trays, and the food lines and coffee lines will be marked so that people can keep their social distance.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for doing this every year, and thank you for making sure that we have an option for this year. So council, on this one, same thing, get some consensus on this, an opportunity to ask questions. I will say that load on the staff and resources, it's in our building. This one won't need my approval on like the other one does and the other things that I talked about, because this is obviously indoors. The load on the staff setup will be before anybody gets there. Tear down will be when everybody's gone. So the staff, unless the staff want to participate, which of course some do, and we'll make sure that everything's separated and social distance, and you heard all the other things about that. The library staff will be involved, and so that's the kind of the load on the city, if you will. And we'll do some dry running with some Zoom and all that to let people be able to see what's going on, but also if anybody is going to speak, and Linda's still working on some of that, but we have some options there. Bottom line is we don't want the situation to unnecessarily prevent us from celebrating Veterans Day and acknowledging the veterans in the community. So,
we love our veterans.
So on the left side, questions and comments on this one?
No, go for it.
Okay, so again, consensus from council?
Yes.
Okay. We're good with that one too. All right, next up is Texas Arbor Day Landscaping Project, and that is the Parks Committee and Mr. Chamberlain. Welcome back to the podium.
Thank you. Good to be back again. Okay, so this has already been reviewed by the council. The council's already had a packet of this, or do I need to go through the details on it? Mr. Mayor. May I can go through
I don't know
that?
what you have in your hand.
I've got what's on the screen.
Oh.
Single page. I can go through it real quick if you want me to.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
I have it, but I didn't know if they have it. They have it, yes. I got a couple of head nods over here.
okay. Well, I'll just highlight real quick.
Highlight it, please.
Basically, this will be the first time that we're looking to do a fall cleanup for Paul Davis Park. It's strictly for Paul Davis Park. Why? Because Mother Nature kind of demands it out of us from that side. We're looking, though, to tie it in with Texas Arbor Day, which is actually the Friday before. And it's going to be, well, we have from 7 to 1 p.m. on November the 7th, where we have already reserved the park. We'll probably get set up at 7, but we'll actually have volunteers show up around 8 o'clock and run it till 1 o'clock, and we'll be done for the day. We anticipate 15 to 25 people showing up. Maximum would be 36 if we had full volunteers. We're not looking to advertise this out over the general network or through the grapevine. Why? Because we want to control the people that do come up and make sure that they're there to go ahead and actually do work. It's a project, it's not an event. We're anticipating, though, 15 to 25 people showing up. Small work groups, 4 to 6 people per work group. We listed 8 potential areas within the park that we're looking to actually focus on. If you are a group of 4 people that come in one car or 2 cars and you want to work together, fine, we'll let you go ahead and work together, not a problem on that side. The volunteers will basically practice in social distancing. If we have them in small work groups, it'll be better from that area. They will adhere to mask. Hand sanitizers will be available as well. What we're asking them to bring basically is make sure you have the right shirt, hat, gloves, If you bring any power equipment, we'll identify who those people are, and they'll bring their own equipment to come in with that we're going to use as we have in the springtime to come into play. Refreshments will be bottled water, and it'll be wrapped sandwiches for lunch that would come in, and that's all optional. If you want to work and not have lunch, that's okay, you can leave. And Public Works will do any prep work on Friday before. They will not be there on Saturday during the course of the event. And that pretty much touches up on it. Any questions at all?
Questions, comments on this one? So again, this is one that is using a little bit of our resources. So I just want to make sure you all are okay with it, and then I'm going to have to also sign off on it from the other part. Consensus on this? Very good. All right, we're good on that one.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next is the concept of what we're looking at for the Christmas tree lighting.
Correct. So at this point, we'd like to come back in front of the committee in just next month as well. We're finalizing the actual traffic flow pattern. I don't know if you have that visual available or not. So we are working with the city administrator, with the police chief, and also with the elementary school across the street, so that we can make sure that we can secure a safe traffic pattern. But basically, it's going to be a drive-through Christmas on Santa Claus Lane. So there's not getting any out of cars. You'll be able to listen on an FM radio station, Christmas music, and everything else that comes into play. But we pretty much have outlined to keep this basically in car. You come in through a controlled environment. You're going to be back to back with your cars driving through. You'll come up through the community center, reverse pattern if you would, if we get it set up correctly. They'll be able to wave at Santa Claus. He'll be able to wave back to them. And we also will provide packaged candy as well for them, to the kids in the car that come into play. And they'll be able to see Christmas lights, Christmas trees, deer lit up and everything else. And we also will have music playing as well. And that's artificial deer, by the way. I just want to be very clear about that. Okay. And we will follow the safety procedures in compliance with COVID-19 as well from that area.
Perfect. And council, obviously we got some time on this, but we wanted to make sure that they were going in the right direction before we could. So you will get briefed on this again in more detail, but if you were just adamantly opposed to it, we didn't want to send them down that rabbit hole. So, well, you got time, you got time. But, so you'll get more detail on this, but in concept, having the drive-through Christmas Santa Claus lane thing, and all the things you heard so far, you'll get more detail in November. But anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Chamberlain on this?
Yes, Mr. Chamberlain, you might mention the date. It's a Friday night.
Correct. It is Friday night, December the 4th, and that's reserved as well. We've already had that facility reserved. We're just going to have everything outside, though. Nothing's going to be inside. It comes into play. That. If you have any suggestions, please reach out. Let me know any comments or things that could add to it.
Good. Okay, consensus for them to continue with the plan on this? Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Terrific. Thank you.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate what you're doing. Okay, moving on to item number 12. Updates, city administrator reports. Hand it back over to you, Ms. Kane.
Okay. Public Works Director Steinmetz has worked very diligently on our recent oak wilt outbreak. He's spent a lot of time working with the residents, and I'm going to ask him to update you on where the project stands at this point.
We received a quote from the company called We Love Trees, the same company that has trenched for oak wilt here in the past. The other company that does the same thing basically did not want to quote this project because of all the utilities that they're going to have to cross and whatnot. So we're going to be going with We Love Trees. We're going to be looking toward probably hopefully get this done within the last 2 weeks of October, so we beat our November 4th deadline, so we can get the state money that's we applied for. We are currently digging up and locating some of the lines ourselves in Paul Davis Park, and probably later this week we'll be working on Sumac Cove, digging up the water lines that are in the street, so we can avoid having to pay extra for the company to have to do that. Property owners that have the containment trench going through the property have been locating their sprinkler lines also, so that they can bring down their cost so unnecessary lines don't get hit during the process. That's all I have to.
An important project, and we appreciate all the extra vigilance on it. Thank you. Anything for Mr. Steinmetz on Buckley?
According to this, they're stopping up at well, it's that dot, that farthest upper left dot. Okay, where the infected tree is.
In 9005, that one?
Yes, 9005, correct. Why do they think that the creek is a natural barrier for this?
They're not sure. I think it might have jumped the trench at one point when it was going through 9005, when they had it along with the park back 2.5 years ago. So I think it might have jumped the trench back then somewhere. That's how it might have got out. They can't really. I believe the first oak wilt was first the one on Butcher's property. That was the first occurrence of it. Then we had a separate occurrence of it that was Glen Cove, which he thought was a new outbreak there.
Yeah.
And then the park was another new outbreak, because in between trees you wouldn't see any oaks that looked like they were suffering. So whenever you see that, it's basically a new local center. Unless you see it's the same local center, you'll see like a progression of dead trees going throughout a linear line. But no, we don't really know how this started or where it starts coming from. But we do think this last one might have been a jumping the trench.
Okay, the reason why I asked that is I noticed there's not going to be a trench by the creek. And I just assumed that they think that that would be a natural barrier, just like the lake. You know, they stop it at the lake.
Well, yeah,
That's pretty obvious.
we looked at the creek area, and there was no real live oaks in there. It was more like mesquite trees or cedar elms and stuff like that. That's why we didn't make a complete circle around the whole thing.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Does it impact any or all of the state funding if we're not completed by November 4th?
Yes, we won't receive the $3,000 from the state.
I mean, we could have weather issues or something like that. Is there any way to, and what do they estimate weather permitting that it would take? How long?
It would probably take maybe 3 to 4 days.
Okay, is there any possibility of them getting, moving it back a little bit so we don't run that risk?
Oh, like an extension?
I'm sorry?
Like getting an extension from the state?
No, I mean, doing the job sooner so that we have a little more breathing room, because that's a little scary, that we would lose the funding if we don't complete the job by that date.
Basically, what we're waiting on is for us to get all the utilities located, like in the street. 'Cause we have 2 water services on Sumac Cove. We have to dig into the street to get, and plus another gas line we have to locate and dig up to make it to where that rock saw doesn't get close to it. And basically whenever the company could do it, but they're going to charge like $575 per line that they have to dig around.
So the question remains, are we able to accelerate this enough that we're not right up against that deadline for the supplemental
Yes, we can accelerate it.
Yeah, and obviously that's important. We don't want to lose that. Great. Does that answer? Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Snyder.
Cool.
City Administrator, do you have anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, item 12, B, City Council Projects. We have one here, and it's code compliance, and it's Councilman Lancy. You have the floor, sir.
I wanted to bring up this, not that there's any crisis taking place, but we have talked about a code compliance officer for years and years and years, and probably don't have enough problems to justify a full-time individual, even though we're past the budget season anyhow. But I'd like some discussion about it over the next couple of months to see what we can do about getting someone qualified and doing it on a part-time basis throughout the city so that we can keep a handle on what some of the things that are taking place. Is that possible? Do you have some answers or questions that I don't know about already?
Well, yeah, we should talk about it. If it's a concern of yours, we should undoubtedly talk about it, and it's on the it's on the agenda, so we can talk about it tonight. One of the things is in large cities having code compliance officers, you know, it's a necessity. In our city, what ends up happening is, as you said, it's not enough for one person to do. But I would tell you that we have a pretty good system. It's not perfect, but we have a pretty good system because, and I'm going to ask the chief to speak to this, but all of his officers are qualified to enforce the code. You know, and if they're not, they will go to, you know, Wilbert or whoever they need to. But the other thing about it is because we don't just go see something that's wrong and send a letter and say, fix it or else. Their process, and I'm putting words in his mouth, I know, but I like it so much I want to talk to it, is that when one officer is dealing with that issue, that officer is the only one that deals with it. So there's consistency with that officer doing it, and so they go and they do the verbal warning, then they do the written warning, and then they do the citation. And there's a track record of this. If the person that's got an issue with this has had the opportunity to talk to the officer about it, and vice versa. And so there's a pretty good consistency to this path to fixing the issue or having it be something that has a report. So having one person do it that's not an officer is a problem. Having an officer do it when we don't have, well, we're still down officers, but is a problem also. So as you can tell, I think what we're doing is good. We need to communicate. You know, if every once in a while we'll get somebody that will complain about, did you see so-and-so doing such and such? But if they don't tell us until they're fed up with it, and then they blame us. I mean, you know, even if you had a code compliance officer, unless that person just drove around all day measuring and looking at stuff, they're not going to see everything anyway. So I think I don't want to fix a problem unless we have a problem, I guess. So turn it back to you. Do you perceive that we have a problem?
No, that's not my intention. I keep hearing from councilmen that we have a problem. It comes up quite often. I drive around the older parts of the city and I see potential problems, boats in the yards, trailers in driveways, things like that detract from the overall appearance of the entire city when you start letting that happen. Now, I don't know, I don't drive by there intentionally every day to see if it's been rectified. So I'm not looking for problems. That just, we don't seem to have the personnel that we need to, or even a part-time person to take care of the job on a responsible day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Doesn't even have to be day-to-day, just to follow up. And again, it's not a complaint. I'm just,
well,
you know.
and you said a lot of council are complaining, and council, I hope you know that you can always write city administrator a note, or frankly, you can even write it to me as long as there's only one of you doing it. and we will address it right away. When we get citizens that complain about what they think they see or what they see, we always investigate it. And I think we're doing pretty well with it, but I would ask the chief to address it from his perspective, and then each council person give your perspective on it as well. Chief?
No, you're giving me the discussion I needed, so I'm pretty happy with your explanation. It's being taken care of. Nothing's a crisis situation with what I'm talking about. So as long as it's being taken care of.
So Chief, if you would, your perspective on this, since your officers are the ones that are doing it.
Yes, sir, and you touched on most of the process. We do try to keep it with one officer. I will say that in the last 60 days, we've handled 34 ordinance violations. We just do it quietly, and we try not to let it escalate to the level of enforcement in court. And that's a system that we've established for some time now. As the mayor said, we first have an officer go over and make contact with them in person and just explain to them, look, you may or may not realize you're in violation of this ordinance. This is what you need to do to take care of it. Anything you need help, here's the ordinance, this, that. And we give them 10 days to take care of it before we start the next step. And then it's a written warning, and it goes on from there. So we usually get compliance between the first and second step. Most people are very appreciative when we contact them and explain the situation to them, tell them where they get the resources and how they can get it rectified. One of the other issues when you start talking about a code enforcement officer is a code enforcement officer can initiate some investigations and talk to people, but cannot cite, must be a peace officer, police officer. So then you're right back to the police department again, and if you do that, then now you've got at least two people involved that don't have the same story, and the continuity gets dropped off on that. Currently, over the last several months, we've also been under this disaster declaration, which has changed a few of our ordinances and allowed some of these things to take place until we're out of this COVID situation. And sometimes when you're dealing with trailers and so forth in driveways, there's some misunderstandings. People don't understand you can have them in driveways if they're behind the front plane of the house, the front building of the house, and so on and so forth. So some of these may or may not be violations, but until somebody comes and lets me know and we look into it, we won't know. Be happy to sit down with anybody that needs to talk about this. We'll talk about it. I can pull up the stats, we can pull up the ordinances, we can look at specific details, and we can address everything.
Okay, that's fine with me, Mayor.
Great.
I mean, I didn't know our officers were doing it on that much of a regular basis, so, I mean, I'm pleased with that. So.
Yeah, and one operative word there was quietly. They do a lot of it that people just don't even know they're doing. One thing that helps, I'll say publicly, and tell everybody, is that to, again, bring it to the city administrator, and then let her, bring it to wherever. Now, I get citizens writing to me all the time, and I certainly don't have any issue with that whatsoever. And then we'll talk about it, and my personal code enforcement officer is
My
the
phone
chief,
rings.
and I'll ask him to go look at something, and often those things end up being fixed, as he said, after the first time he or one of the officers talks to him. Yeah. So, Ms. Kane, do you have anything to add to that? And then I'm going to go through each council person to get their perspective and any questions they have. But first of all, do you have anything to add?
No, as we get complaints here in the city, as I get them, I forward them on to the applicable party. And we try to get them resolved as quickly as we possibly can. I think we have a good system, and I think it's working fine. But if you see something out there that you're concerned with, send it to me. Send me the information, and we will address it.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So, starting over with you, do you have any concerns or questions about this? And I'm going to skip that because I'm going to go back here. Pam?
Yeah, I agree that it needs to be in writing and submitted and so on. And this is just a thought, I don't have an answer. But one issue that has come up is for example, a new resident moves in, again, they move into an ungated area. They may not be aware, and I can understand this, they're not aware of all the rules and regs or whatever like that. So they may go, for example, and put a flagpole in their yard, not knowing that they need a permit or something. I'm just wondering if we could establish some sort of a system with a follow-up, if you will. I mean, no one wants to penalize a new resident for putting up a flagpole because they don't, I mean, ignorance, isn't really the excuse, but just to be considerate. So I'm wondering if there may be a process we could develop down the line somewhere where, say, for example, Wilbert follows up once he gives a permit or something like that, or once there's a transfer, somewhere along the line where they could just go give an overview. Because again, if they're not in a gated community with an HOA, there's no one to tell them other than maybe an unpleasant neighbor that they can't do that. And I don't know any other way around it. So in other words, if we be proactive rather than reactive.
I understand, and certainly, anytime we can be proactive, we want to be.
Right.
I'm not sure I understand, because you said Wilbert would follow up. Wilbert always does. If we issue a permit, he then goes back to make sure that it was built to the permit and all that.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I misspoke, or I wasn't clear. No, I meant, for example, I was just using Wilbur as an example. Someone comes in and moves into the city, and they don't even ask for a permit because they don't know to ask for a permit for example, a flagpole. So Wilbert would have I'm just using it as an example, would have no way of knowing that they put up a flagpole. It would take someone saying, hey, the new guy put up a flagpole.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I'm saying, again, in a manner of trying to be proactive rather than reactive, can we maybe down the line establish a system where a new homeowner, maybe somebody just kind of follows them or follows up with them in a friendly way to say, hey, you kind of really need a permit for that. Something to that effect. Something, welcome to the neighborhood, but you need a permit. But something proactive. Yeah, mow that yard, whatever.
Well, I guess maybe I'm reading in between the lines of what you're saying, but what we could do is make sure that when we welcome somebody and they set up their water account and welcome them, that we can make sure they know if you intend to do any improvements or do any building or do anything like that, it's a free call to call up here to say, I'm looking to do this. Is that something I have to have a permit on? And our folks that answer the phone will be able to tell them immediately. So we'll just make sure that we do that. That's easy. I think that's easy. Ms. Kane, what do you think?
I think we can handle that. Perhaps put something on the website, update. I thought we had something on the website that talks about permits, but we will check on that and see if we can't develop something that perhaps is a little bit more educational through the website, maybe occasional articles in the grapevine, maybe an insert within the packet that is provided to new residents.
Great.
We can take care of it.
So now I'll come back to you since it was your agenda item. Are you satisfied with it?
I'm satisfied with everything, and I appreciate all the work you all do.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know it was that well organized without somebody in charge of it.
And Wilbert and I have our phones on speed dial. We talk to each other frequently when I see things out there and he calls and I call, and so.
Great, okay. Then moving on, unless anybody has anything else on that, we're going to move on to item 12C, Mayor's Projects, Communication Report. 89.7, word number 2, the consensus, or excuse me, the census. The census, damn, Mountain City is still number 1, but we closed the gap. We're only we're 0.5% behind them. Depending on who you ask, it's supposed to be over at the end of the month, but then some people are saying that it may continue a little bit longer, so I don't really know, and I wasn't willing to spend any more time researching it, but bottom line is number 57 in the United States, over 19,000 cities, we're number 57. So City of Garden Ridge folks are taking it seriously how important it is to do the census. Another thing in communication, the sign, we're not out of the woods on this, so you see a backhoe in the middle of the night show up near our city sign, start hollering, please. And then a serious note on that, we got e-billing is something put on the sign again recently, and talk it up. This is something that I put on there because we do need to talk it up. And if there's any other things that you think are important, never hesitate to send us a note, and Yeah, and early voting is on there a lot. Yes, you'll see it's on there quite a bit, as we come up to it. You may have seen that our staff put out, I always want to give Ms. Spencer credit, and then she deflects it often, but I think she did this. The teacher recognition program that it's called Teachers Can. She put it, I got something from this group, and they're pretty neutral, nonpartisan, otherwise just supporting teachers in general. And so we put out some stuff on a Teacher's Day on that. I appreciate she did that. That's a good communications. Now, I'm going to tell you a story that is 100% true. I got a call from somebody that identified themselves as a Wall Street Journal reporter, and when I checked the number, because I had to call them back, it really was a Wall Street Journal number. So apparently this person was a Wall Street Journal reporter. Sounded a bit young, and wanted to know what was going on in Garden Ridge with the theft of political signs. And I said, well, it's not really happening much. I don't know what you're talking about, but what where is this coming from? And she said, well, on Facebook there's a video of a sign being stolen. If you haven't seen the video, it infuriates me, frankly, because what it is an adult driving an SUV that drives past the yard, backs up a little kid gets out and goes and steals a political sign. And I will use the term I use every time I tell this story. What dirtbag teaches their kid to do that? And if you're the dirtbag that did it and you're listening, yes, you're a dirtbag for teaching your kid to do that. So nevertheless, she saw that and she wanted to know, do we have a crime wave of stolen signs? And I said, well, we have one other one that's been reported and we're investigating it. And at that time, and I don't know if there have been any others and all that, and I'll get to that in a second, but I said, no, we had two. She said, well, how does this compare? And she asked about previous elections, presidential elections, that kind of thing. And I said, well, it's never been an issue, and we don't really think it's much of an issue. I explained to her that two doesn't make a trend and doesn't make a crime spree. But then she asked, I would pay money to have this recorded. She said, well, what about the ones that you don't know about? And I wanted to ask, how much does the Wall Street Journal pay you to ask those questions?
You know the brain-eating amoeba that was over near Houston? I think it got to her.
She asked that question. So that was a media communication, and otherwise we haven't had too much with that. Streaming numbers, because I think it's important, because there's not that many people in the room, but last council meeting, 74 people watched it online, and commission meetings, 71 views for the commission meetings in total. If you notice, what we put on the sign is that you can watch it from home as well, and we want people to watch it from home. We want to get the word out. That's the reason we have this whole system, and that's why we put it on YouTube as well as our website. And 74 people that could have been in the room were sitting at home in the comfort of their home watching these proceedings. So that's a good thing for communications, I think. And just tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your friends that watch and see what's going on, and then maybe they'll either want to get involved, or they'll have questions, or they'll have issues, whatever it is. But that's what it's all about. That's what the government's all about. Next is 12C2, citizen contact. Obviously, I've been in contact with a lot of people because of those authorizations and all those gatherings. One that was interesting that Ms. Kane and I worked was some people that wanted to use the ball fields, and we explained to them that what they needed to do, but also that since they were large groups, they had to pay for the ball fields. As you recall, you and your friend or your family member can go out and use the ball field or use anything at the park, and no harm, no foul. You don't have to rent it. But when you get to be a large group, you have to start to rent it, and you approve that ordinance, so you should know that ordinance. But these people spent a lot of time back and forth. They didn't like the answers they were getting, but and then all of a sudden they went radio silent. We haven't heard from them since. So apparently they found a better deal. Some other events that have happened recently, contact with citizens. the 9/11 event at the high school. I went out there and participated at the commemorative event. The junior ROTC, newly minted Army junior ROTC unit is out there, and they asked me to come out and be part of their thing, and it was a pleasure and my honor to be involved. Northeast Partnership, remember you all consented to the checks from the Northeast Partnership COVID relief, and here's some pictures. Councilwoman Bauer was out there with me. You see top Raptitude, middle is Caparelli's, bottom is, the middle is Figlio's and the bottom is Caparelli's. All those folks are the owners of the businesses. They were all very appreciative of us doing that, and again, it's Northeast Partnership, but it comes from the city. It comes from resources that you all approve through the budget. We also did ribbon cutting at the Club of Garden Ridge because they joined the chamber, did that on the 17th of September, and on the 24th of September, the chief and I went up for the open house and ribbon cutting for the Crisis Action Center's new facility. If you're familiar with where the Crisis Action Center is, this new facility is literally just across the street. And you can, if you look in that little plaza there, you can see their sign up there. That's where their offices are because now they're transitioning the older section that's been renovated is more of where the business of the client business happens, and their offices are over across the street now. Good separation. That's citizen contact. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any of those? Okay, discussion for future agenda items, starting over on the left side. Anything that you'd like to have on the agenda in the future? Ma'am? Sir? Sir?
I would really like to have some more information about the intimidation that took place last year for the land for trapping deer. I'll leave it up to the chief, you, mayor, and city administrator, if you want to do this in executive session or open session.
We'll take a look at it, see what, because a lot of it, unfortunately, I know is anecdotal. People were just kind of making offhand comments. You kidding me? There's, that kind of thing. But what we'll do is we'll put together some stuff and see what we have and see what the appropriate venue for it is and all that. But we'll do that. Thank you. Anything else? No. Sir?
Well, I'm real curious also about what Brian has mentioned, because I'd heard the same thing.
Okay.
So ditto, Brian.
Okay. All right. Citizen comment period, item number 14. This one you didn't have to sign up for. You come on up and speak. You get 2 minutes. Remember, after you speak, name, address, doesn't count, then go on over there and put your name and address on the piece of paper that we have on the table. So invite anyone that would like to be involved in citizen comments, item 14.
Ken Kniper, 8891 Chaintal Road. Prior to the high school moving in, I know there were a lot of people thought there would be some problems with Friday night or Thursday night football games. So in Gardner, in George Ranch, I kept some folks I knew, I kept a pulse of what was happening. The first night was clear, very dry weather. Nobody heard anything. A few people on one of the streets, they heard something on their back porch. And in both of their times I spoke to them, they said this was happy noise. It's the kind of noise they like hearing. On one Friday night, it was cloudy. It had been overcast that day. And I think it helped because the band sits on chairs 56 feet to 7 feet apart in the end zone on the south end of the football field. Well, the wind's coming out of the south or the north that night, and it kind of blew the sound towards George Ranch. Well, some people heard the sound, and I got a few complaints, so much so that I did contact the school and let the principal know that one Thursday night, he sent the vice principal who lives in George Ranch driving our streets to see how far he could actually hear it. So I think the school's trying to. If you go there at night, if you look from a distance, you can see the lights, But once you get around that school or in the football stadium, you look out, the light doesn't go any further than the parking lot or right behind the stands. You don't get a light outprint to the sides, not like you do it for most stadiums, because all their lights are at 90-degree angles to the ground in their LED lights. So they're trying to be good stewards, and I think they've shown their problem. I mean, they're forcefulness to get things done. Thank you.
Thanks,
I need
sir.
to talk to you.
Anyone else?
Rod Chamberlain, 8807 Cherokee Path, Garden Ridge. If there's anything that we could do to ask TxDOT on FM 2252 on the project, once they get it pretty much put in place, any communication or town hall meeting or something that we can actually see, or a website that we can visit to give us more detailed information would be great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close out item 14. And before we go to reports, comments on number 15, I'm going to take the opportunity to thank Ryan Ferguson for making sure that we stayed safe and clean with our podium. So Ryan, thank you, sir. I don't know if he hears me. He's so intent on what he's doing. So thank you, Ryan. But seriously, it was important, and you were on it the whole time, and we appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, item 15, reports, comments from mayor, city council members, limited to the list, and we'll start over on the right side. Sir, anything off of here? No. Sir? Ma'am? Okay. Item 16, executive session. City council recesses open meeting and reconvene executive session. For those who keep track, it's going to be in here because we can't social distance back there. So we'll clear the room. But before I do that, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551071, consultation with attorney, there will be two items. One is seek legal advice in connection deliberating the purchase, lease, exchange, or value of real property and regarding related negotiations for city building projects and utility projects. Number two will be to seek legal advice regarding requirements for Comal County Emergency Services and authority to contract for such services through an interlocal agreement. The first one we will have, well, the attorney will be for both, but the first one will also have the engineer. Otherwise, we are recessed at 9:41 and 9. All right. City Council reconvene regular session, and it is at 10:30 that we are reconvening. Item 17, business items. Council, do you have anything as a result of the executive session that you would like to bring out for any decision? No. Okay, having none, moving on to item 18, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Place 3, or excuse me, place 4, and a second from place 5. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. We are adjourned at 10:30.
Hey, I'm glad you were in favor of it.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Got a lot done tonight. We really did.